99 in Corliss and Grand Lake. We ask now that you please turn off all electronic devices. Item number 5, take appropriate action to approve the minutes of April 19, 2016 and May 17, 2016 Planning and Zoning Board meetings. I entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Move. Second.
Moved by Art, seconded by Mr. Navarre. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Being none, minutes approved. Item number 6, take appropriate action on case RA 07001-16, a request by Louise Jean Cormier to abandon and revoke the original dedication of a 40-foot wide unimproved right-of-way at 5400 Highway 90 West in Ward 7. I'll entertain a motion for approval with stipulations.
So move.
Second.
All right, Ms. Navarre and Ms. Brown seconded. Ms. Wallace.
The right-of-way in question was dedicated to the police jury in 1958, but a road was never constructed. The petitioners are selling the land and would like to have formal action taken to unencumber the land and allow the sale to proceed. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted.
All right, any blue cards on that one? No. Any questions or comments by the board? Does the applicant have anything to add to staff's presentation? All righty, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Being none, item number 6 passes. Item number 7, take appropriate action on case VA 04-019-16, a request by Gary Fields for a variance to allow residential development with less than required public road frontage, required 100 feet, requesting 94 feet, and with less than required lot square footage, required 43,560 square feet, requesting 16,117 square feet at 6576 Urson Road in Ward 4. Entertain a motion to approve, for approval with stipulations.
So move.
Coach Williams moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Brown seconded. Ms. Wallace, please.
This property is located in Carlos and encompasses .37 acres of agricultural zone land. The petitioners purchased the non-conforming lot in 2012. A previous owner subdivided this lot out of a 1.5 acre tract and did not meet the minimum requirements in doing so. The petitioners would like to place a manufactured home on the property to serve as their own residence. To do so, they must receive approval on the variance request. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following stipulations: that the development adhere to the site plan on file, provided that the director may authorize adjustments to site plans, and that the manufactured home must be skirted prior to utilities being connected.
Okay. Does the applicant have anything to add? Any blue cards?
No blue card.
Questions or comments by the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Being none, item number 7 passes. Item number 8, take appropriate action on case EX 04-020-16, a request by Eric Bourgeois for an exception to allow a borrow pit, 18 acres, at the northeast corner of West Houston River Road and Edgerly DeQuincy Road in Ward 4. Entertain a motion for approval with stipulations.
So move.
Art Little, do I have a second?
Second.
She seconded. Ms. Wallace.
This property is located northwest of Sulphur and encompasses 136 acres of agricultural zone land. The petitioners received approval in 2010 to excavate a 19-acre pit at this location. At that time, a 5-year time limit was imposed. Now the petitioners are requesting approval for an 18-acre borrow pit. 90% of the dirt would be removed from the property, and the site would be for personal use upon completion. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following stipulations: that the development must be in accordance with Section 26122(1)(f)(4) of the Parish Code of Ordinances, and that permitting is subject to Department of Engineering approval, and that the hauler must obtain an occupational license prior to permitting.
Thank you. Does the applicant have anything to add to this presentation? No blue cards on that one? All righty. Questions or comments by the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Being none, item number 8 passes. Item number 9, take appropriate action on case EX 03-021-16, a request by Prairie Land Company for an exception to allow a borrow pit, 160 acres, at the southeast corner of Elliott Road and West Tank Farm Road in Ward 3. Need a motion for approval with stipulations?
So move.
Dickerson moves. Have a second?
Second.
Mr. Kurt seconds. Ms. Wallace.
This property is located in the South Lake Charles area and consists of 240 acres of agricultural zone property. It is part of a two-part request, but it is separate property owners. The request is to allow a 160-acre borrow pit where they would remove 100% of the dirt from the property, and there have been discussions about possibly developing a subdivision on this land once the dirt pit is complete. They do plan, this is a unique situation, they actually plan to take the trucks across Elliott Road at the southwest corner and then cross over onto property that'll be included in the next request, PBA properties, for another borrow pit, and then they would cross their own property, cross Big Lake Road, and serve the LNG plants with excavated materials. So there's very minimal impacts to the parish roads. The staff recommends that the request be granted with the following stipulations: that the development must be in accordance with Section 26-122-1F4 of the Parish Code, that permitting is subject to approval of both the Division of Engineering and the Gravity Drainage District Number 4 of Ward 3, and that the hauler's occupational license must be provided prior to permitting. I believe that there is opposition here in the audience, but I did want to point out that we do have an opposition letter on your tablets as well.
All right. Thank you. Does the applicant have anything to add to the presentation? You do. Come to the mic, state your name and address, please.
Paul Roussel, and I'm representing Prairie Land Company, 700 Pujo Street. I'd just like to add, I appreciate the opportunity to speak. These sites were selected for their proximity to the Lake Charles liquefaction project. That's where the material is slated to go to, and it was slated from these sites so that we could minimize the traffic on public roads. As it was stated, we'll just be crossing Elliott Road and then Big Lake Road. We won't be traveling down any public roads. So that was one of the main reasons to minimize the traffic, minimize the effect to influence or affect as fewer residents as we could possibly impact. You know, we realize that this is a large number of material, a large amount of material that's got to be moved, and the material for this project's got to come from somewhere. And we selected these sites because they were the closest to the liquefaction projects, and it would have the least amount of impact to the fewest residents, as well as least amount of damage and effect to public roads and safety.
All right, thank you. Board have any questions? Okay. I have a question for Stephen Vinton. Is that? Say again? Viator, I'm sorry. Are you for or against it? Okay, thank you. I mean, I didn't want to put you on the spot, but it wasn't signed, so I just needed to know. We have 4 against and 1 general.
Mr. Chairman, how about 2 minutes per speaker then?
Okay, all right. Ms. Miller, Elena Miller.
My address?
Your name and
Name
address.
and address. My name is Alina Miller, and I live at 7985 Elliott Road, Lake Charles, Louisiana, 70605. And I am opposed to it because my house sits right directly across from the one they want to do on Elliott and Big Lake Road. And we have no drainage there now because a couple weeks ago when it flooded, my yard looked like a lake. So if they start digging and doing this, these big trucks are going to be passing on this road. And as it is now, when they did LNG plant, the cars that pass on that road at 4:30 in the afternoon, y'all would not believe the traffic and how fast these people are going. And I have grandkids, and there's other people out there with grandkids. So I am opposing it. And the one on Tank Farm Road, I'm opposing it also because they have a trailer park directly to the north of that. What's going to happen to these little kids if they wander across that road and go into that pit and drown? That's what I want to know. What are we going to do about the drainage and the road? Because when it floods, get a big rain, my yard is flooded, looks like a lake. And the other day when it flooded out there for where the coulee is at on Tank Farm in Elliott, there was people that lived on Richard Road that was subject to having their houses flooded. That's how deep that water had came all the way down. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Any questions for Ms. Miller? All right. Ms. Tina Horn?
Hello, everyone. I'm Tina Horn. I'm at 711 Chenier Purdue Road in Creole, Louisiana. But I'm here today because my daughter and her fiance just purchased 5 acres right on the south property line of where this pit's going. They have a nice little brick home there, a barn, and thinking they were out in the country, going to raise a family and everything, and now there's a 159-acre hole that's going to be right north of them. You know, when Mr. LaSalle gave us the prayer, he said, you know, you were here for our benefit and for quality of life, and to look at not just parish roads. I'm thinking, I realize, because I have a background with police juries, that the police jury wants to protect their parish road and that this is the least impact, but that should not be the only thing that that weighs in on this project. I realize LNG needs the dirt, but it can come from other places. They can barge it in, as far as I'm concerned. But Lake Charles also needs housing. So why wouldn't that area be developed for residential, which is all around there now, residential, and they can still make money off of it? I just want to go on the record as opposed and give you guys something to think about, because nothing has been addressed as far as drainage. To my knowledge, there are some drainage laterals there, but they look like they're pretty overgrown and they're not doing a good job. And I just think that the whole picture needs to be looked at, not just the parish roads.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Horn? All right. Thank you. Mitch Thomas?
Mitch Thomas, 7913 Elliott Road. And this is my fiance, Caitlin Horn, which is Miss Tina Horn's daughter, and so she was speaking on our behalf. But we just wanted to go through basically our list of concerns that we have. Like she said, we just recently purchased that house back in February, thinking we were in the country. But just to go through the list of concerns that we have: noise, obviously, noise of heavy traffic, noise of traffic, especially with the large dump trucks on top of those steel plates that Recon's proposing. Also, the increase in traffic. I don't know if y'all read it, but there's supposed to be 250 loads per day that are supposed to be crossing Elliott at our northwest property corner. So, I mean, and that northwest property corner is probably about 100 feet from our bedroom window. So you can imagine it's going to be pretty loud. Also, we want to express probably the increase in litter. You know, if obviously the more traffic you're going to have, you're probably going to have more litter. Potential decrease in property value, potential for increase in mosquitoes, snakes, etc. The massive amounts of dust is a big concern for us. I know they had stated that they're going to try to control it with water trucks, but I think we all know that it can't be all controlled, and you know, which can increase allergies and respiratory issues. Also, with the house maintenance, you know, dust getting the AC clogged up and so forth. One other concern is the location of the discharge. You know, with the pumps having to constantly run to keep the pit dry during operations. We want to know where this is going to pump to. Will it obstruct drainage like the lady said earlier that, you know, it does flood around there during heavy rainfall events. One big concern that we have, because we're so close, we actually share a property line with Prairie, is subsidence. As the dirt pit is pumped out daily during operations, water from the adjacent aquifers will be put in the pit, which will leave our property and the surrounding properties vulnerable to subsidence. I'm sorry. And one other concern that we have is a big concern to me, is the flood mats. Developing these large open water areas around our property can be detrimental to our flood maps. Having these two large open water areas can potentially affect the wave modeling used by FEMA to determine these zones. And just to conclude, I just want to recite, after getting legal counsel, just want to recite the limitations of use of property and also the inconvenience to neighbor from the LA Civil Code. And this is where it starts. Although a proprietor may do with his estate whatever he pleases, still he cannot make any work on it which may deprive his neighbor of the liberty of enjoying his own, or which may be the cause of any damage to him. So right now, at this time, we're just requesting that the application before you be tabled until further review can be completed and these concerns can be addressed.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
All right. Want to address anything? Any questions for gentlemen? Okay. Thank you. Mr. Stephen Viator.
How y'all doing? My name is Steve Viator. I live at 7840 Elliott Road. I live directly across from the proposed site. My front yard faces exactly where they're going to be digging. Now we have the same situation. We moved out there because we thought this was, out in the country, quiet place, and now we're going to have 250 loads a day, along with all of the excavation equipment, everything else is going to be going on. I mean, I know at one point they mentioned a buffer zone. You know, they have a eucalyptus farm out there now. A buffer zone of 50 feet. You know, that's really not enough to me. Those eucalyptus trees are very thin, very sparse. That won't even stop the visual effect, more or less the sound or dirt or any of the other stuff that we're going to have to put up with. So, I mean, if this pit does go through, I mean, I would at least request, a 200-foot or more buffer zone or barrier to stop any noise or dust, anything else that I'm going to have to put up with on my own personal property. So I understand that, y'all have to have dirt from somewhere, but it's really a concern that we're going to have to really lose a lot of our quality of life, listening to this every day across the street from us.
Thank you much.
Okay.
Any comments, questions? All right. Mr. Charlie Atherton. Charlie Atherton.
Get my request, Donnie Rogers.
On number 9.
Put borrow pit on there, because I didn't know we had this many borrow pits going.
Did you put a number? You didn't put a number?
I signed the blue slip and, you signed, and she requested to speak in front of this panel.
Okay. We'll look at that for it, but in the meantime, Charlie Atherton, is he here? Wanting to speak? Okay.
That was the first batch.
No, sir, we don't have it.
That was
I'll say again.
You can allow.
Okay, come on up, sir. State your name and your address. Okay, you put number 12 on it. So,
Okay, I wasn't sure, when I come in here, I really didn't have an idea of what all was going on because the little red sign doesn't tell
let me
you a
ask
whole
this.
lot.
Which borrow pit do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about both of them on Elliott Road. My name is Donnie Rogers. I'm at
Yeah.
1732 Bryan Street. But we actually, me and my brother, own some land directly across from the pit on, the Elliott Tank Farm Road site. And therefore, it makes us north of the one that, on the corner, northwest corner down there. So what I want to do is just emphasize all the things that these other people have said. With all the traffic, Lake Charles we grew too fast, too quick. So anyhow, and all the problems associated with a dirt pit. They call it a borrow pit. Whenever you borrow something, you generally pay it back. So it's not really a borrow pit. But what I want to say is, Mr. Landry was on TV just not very long ago talking on 7 News about the taxpayers of this parish probably going to have to pick up a tab on I think they call it a retention pond on one of these subdivisions that they built, and once they sold the parcels, they were out of there. So I just want to make sure that all the things, if you disturb your neighbors on drainage or that parish road has to be upkept, and, just all of the things associated with this. And Prairie owns some land that's directly across from where they're going to build the LNG plant. So I'm like, that'd have been a good solution. There's nobody back there. You wouldn't bother anybody. So, but I just want to have y'all consider all this very carefully because it's a nice little community and just not well drained. So we build this deal. Just don't see anything good for those people that have been living in that area way before we knew about LNG plants around here.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank y'all.
Applicant, would you like to add anything more? Would you like-
Yeah, I would like to address a few of the issues that were raised. One, I guess, was the issue with flooding. I'm not familiar with the drainage in that area, but the ponds that will be dug will also be used for retention. So it will help to mitigate some of the flooding problems, I think, in that area. But some of the other issues, the dust and the noise, we can adjust the buffer. I know we put 50 feet on our application, but when we put the application together, we were recommended to put whatever you might need. They said it was better to put more on your application than less and have to go back and get an additional permit or adjust your permit. So we maximized the size of that pit. We don't actually expect to use that much. So we can adjust the pit accordingly, put a wider buffer, 150 feet or 200 feet around the edge of it that would help hopefully address some of the concerns of the neighbors that are directly adjacent to us. But I've also got Carl Peckhouse with Recon, and he might be able to address some of the other issues. I think something came up about the steel plate on the road, and that's something that'd probably be better for him to speak to, if you'd like to.
What's your future plan for the property after the borrow pit?
Our thoughts are that that it would lend itself well to development in the future, but we don't have any immediate plans for that. We're not in the development business, but we were going to situate the pits in such a way that the property would be enhanced and be in a condition that would be more readily available to develop in the future, if that's the end
Is the
result.
property closed off during non-working hours, security-wise?
That'd be for recon to,
Okay.
to address. They'll be the operator of the pit if we get our
Come on.
permit.
He can come on up.
Okay.
My name's Carl Peckhouse with Remedial Construction Services. We go by Recon for short, different than the engineering company in Sulphur. But we're also located in Sulphur. We picked out these borrow pits because we heard the parish concerns, we heard the city's concerns about trucks on the road, minimize the amount of trucks on the road. There's going to be a lot of trucks on the road associated with this project. If it were to go over the road, we're talking 300, let me give you an exact number, 368,773 over-the-road truckloads. By crossing the roads using bigger trucks where we can carry more, we're talking 204,874 loads. And we've talked to the parish engineers who had some concerns about the road plate. And so what we've agreed to do is hire a local engineer, Landcon Engineering, out of Westlake. And what we're going to do is go with reinforced concrete roads per the Louisiana DOT. And so they'll be beefed up. We'll have drainage ditches on site to be able to make sure that we don't have any water running off. Everything's running into the pit. And further than that, the borrow pits are going to have to meet the sites, the LNG sites, stormwater prevention, pollution plan. So after every rain, recordable rain, we're going to have an inspection. We're going to make sure silt fences and erosion controls are in place at all times. And we're going to have enough water for dust control. And that's something that we pride ourselves on, health and safety wise. You know, we care about the community as well. We do have to get a job done, and utilizing the local pits are going to help out with that.
Now, one of the questions was pumping. If, you know, when it rains, what have you, how are you going to pump, or where will you pump that water to?
The parish has drainage ditches on the northwest side and on the east side of the property. If you can see how it kind of cuts the northeast part of the property. And so what we would do is we would position our deep sump basins that would be more or less the sedimentation basins, and we would use floating suctions on the pumps. Make sure we didn't get the suction down into the mud and pump silty water into the east ditch. And so we're pretty much going to focus on the east ditch rather than that northwest ditch, because we're not going to be as close to the northwest side. There's a pipeline you can see that runs from the southeast to the northwest of the property, and we'll be south of that. And in discussions with the drainage district, in lieu of 50-foot, we understand they have right-of-ways, and they're going to need 100-plus feet. So we're talking about, you know, making the buffers more like 150 foot around the property.
Questions? Sharon?
What will your hours of operation be?
We're going to operate during daylight hours, generally around 7 to 5.
What about the buffer? What will you use at the buffer?
The-
They mentioned the eucalyptus trees. Is that what you're planning on using?
Well, we'll keep whatever eucalyptus trees in place from property line out to about 150 feet buffer on the property. Of course, where the access road would cut across Elliott, you know, we'd have to clear those trees.
Now, they were asking about drainage. You said you're going to have some retention ponds as well.
Yeah, when we've done a lot of borrow pit excavations in the past, and we always put in a deep sump first, and that's more or less our sedimentation basin that we pull from. And we pump water. We want to pump water instead of silty water and make sure that it goes through the proper erosion controls, like riprap boxes and silt fence and hay bale check dams before it would enter a pristine stream.
Comments in regards to drainage. I know a couple of years ago, the police jurymen from that area met with the gravity drainage along with the railroad. That drainage that crosses underneath that railroad track at that time could not maintain the water flow that these people are talking about in regards to flooding. Anything been done with it, I really don't know, but I know that was a concern with the jury and the gravity drainage in the area, that particular area, on that particular piece of property in that end of it, that the water, that's where the issue was the water couldn't get out underneath the railroad track because of the drainage size. Now, if that hadn't been taken care of, there's going to be some issues with the water being pumped to get out of that area. And I'm just commenting on issues that did happen, whether they're being taken care of, I don't know. The staff probably will be able to help us with that. The other item I wanted to ask about is there was steel plates being crossed, but you just mentioned that you're going to do concrete instead of steel plates across the roads?
Reinforced concrete, and we'll have a design done by a local engineering firm to make sure we get that installed per state specs.
So you'll replace the road, or you're going to go over the top of it with this concrete?
We'll have to cut the road out
Okay.
and put in the proper amount of
Correct.
base
Okay.
material and reinforced concrete for the design. And you mentioned something about the railroad track serving kind of as a dam, and I can assure you that all the water will be running back into the excavation, and that's more associated with the next borrow pit that we're going to talk about than the one up by the eucalyptus tree farm. So from there, and we can talk more about where we're going to direct that water to. There's a dredge disposal area that exists already right to the west side of it. And that's, like I said, the next borrow pit we're talking about.
Okay. Another issue that was brought up is in regards to dust control. From what I can tell, the housing is to the north of your pit, predominantly south winds. It's going to be very dusty throughout the year. And then the other issue is going to be the water and the mud that comes across on these roads whenever the rain's not there. Bringing that traffic, bringing them trucks across road. Is there I guess there'll be a plan in place to maintain that road so that the people won't be getting in mud while they're crossing?
That's correct. We're going to make sure that as part of the stormwater pollution prevention plan, we're going to have proper construction entrances on both sides of Elliott Road, and make sure we're not tracking mud. In addition to that, we're going to have all-weather access roads, limestone roads that go from the borrow pits all the way to the plant.
Okay.
In order to be able to keep the mud off the road. If we get anything on it, we're going to have the brooms nearby. Also want to mention, as far as traffic goes, with the parish, we're going to hire parish policemen to actually be in police clothes, directing traffic. And on Big Lake Road, we'll hire the state troopers to make sure that the traffic flow doesn't get boogered up.
Any other questions? Yes, sir, go ahead.
For the staff, the application says a 50-foot offset. I know there's been discussion about a number of different ranges, but this application is 50 feet, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
If need be, and the parish would, police sure would like to see a more detailed plan with the buffers that we would propose in addition to the 50-foot, as well as getting the design complete for the concrete road crossings. We would be more than happy to get those drawings done, and if that means putting off this vote another month, that's not gonna hurt the project.
That's an idea. And so would that put off this one as well as the next one?
Yes.
You have the authority to defer action on
Mm-hmm.
cases. So, Got to get a motion.
You have a motion on that? Anyone have a thought on that? Hmm? What, to defer it and allow them to get back with the parish staff with that buffer and also the,
Specs on the concrete road.
I'd make that motion.
all right. And properly moved by Coach Williams that they defer this item number 9. Do I have a second?
Should we put the other item number in there too, Elijah?
I don't know, no.
Do one at a time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take one at a time.
I'll second it.
Okay, Ms. Dixon seconded. So they're probably moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Mr. Chair, before we do take
Yes,
that
okay.
action, it is a debatable motion, the motion to defer. So if there is any discussion you want to take amongst yourselves, that you can do that.
Y'all have any questions, comments, debate? All right, it's already passed, so.
That's fine.
We're good, all right. So, item number 9 has been deferred. He asked for a month, but I guess till further notice, or. it'll
That'll be July 18th. It's a Monday.
Yes, July 18th is a Monday meeting.
July 18th, 5:30, right here.
Right here, the police jury.
Same
conference room.
time, same station.
Same place.
All right, and so item number 9 is deferred. Now, let's go to item number 10. Take appropriate action on case EX 03-022-16, a request by PBA Properties LLC for an exception to allow a borrow pit 60 acres at the northwest corner of Elliott Road and West Lincoln Road in Ward 3. Entertain a motion to approve with stipulations.
So moved.
Who did? Ms. Dixon moved. That's Coach Williams seconded. Ms. Wallace.
Mr. Chair, if there is going to be a motion to defer, that you may want to avoid this discussion.
Are we ready to do that? Okay. So, would we like to defer item number 10 before we read it?
Make the motion.
Okay. Sharon Glacier makes a motion to defer. Have a second?
Second.
Ms. Brown seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Being none, item 10 is deferred. Thank you. Again, July 18th, which is a Monday meeting at 5:30 PM here in the meeting room. But during that time, I know you get with the staff and answer any questions or ask any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. We
Thank you,
y'all.
thank you.
More time.
All righty. Item number 11, take appropriate action on case EX 04-023-16, a request by Sarah Gentry for an exception to allow a residential development, a modular home at 2393 Curry Drive in Ward 4. Entertaining a motion for approval with stipulations.
So moved.
Mr. Navarre, Coach Williams seconded. Ms. Wallace.
This property is located in Carlos and encompasses approximately 6 acres of single-family residential zone land. Currently on the property is a manufactured home that was placed there after receiving a zoning exception from this board. The petitioner resides in that unit. At this time, she would like approval for a modular home to be placed on the lot as well as the existing manufactured home, and this unit would serve as her son's residence. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following stipulation, that the development adhere to the site plan on file, provided that the director may authorize adjustments to site plans.
Okay. Does the applicant have anything to add?
No, sir.
Questions or comments by the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Being none, item number 11 passes. Item number 12, take appropriate action on case EX 03-02416, a request by the Sherry Nicole McCardle Trust for an exception to allow a borrow pit 15 acres in the 1100 block of Arsene LeBlue Road in Ward 3. Entertain a motion for approval with stipulations.
So moved.
Mr. Navarre,
Second
Ms. Dixon seconds, Ms. Wallace.
This property is located south of Lake Charles and encompasses nearly 34 acres of agricultural zone land. If approved, the petitioners plan to remove 90% of the dirt from the site. Upon completion, the pond will be stocked and will be for personal use. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following stipulations, that the development must be in accordance with Section 26-1221F4 of the Parish Code, that a road damage bond in the amount of $300,000 will be required prior to permitting, and that the hauler's occupational license be provided prior to permitting.
All right, thank you. Does the applicant have anything to add to the staff's presentation?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Tom Gale. Address is 713 Kirby Street, Lake Charles, here on behalf of the applicant. Basically, they just want to expand. That's family property, and they've been digging in a pit that is to the west of it right now. They'd like to move back into the east and continue the same program they've done. We've got no problem with the staff's recommendations on stipulations. Glad to answer any questions if you have any.
What'd you say about the west side?
He's currently digging out the portion that's to the west of it. That is already a permitted dirt pit, and that is nearing completion. And so now that once that's going to be dug out, they want to be able to move to the east side and do a similar plan on the east side.
All right, we have, thank you, Mr. Gill. We have 3 blue cards. Mr. Jeff Guidry.
And Mr. Chair, while he's coming up, if I may, we do already have documentation on the $300,000 road bond.
My name is Jeff Gidry. I live on 1075 RC in the Blue Road. I am surrounded by 3 dirt pits. His is one of them, and they're all within 3,000 feet of my house. He is moving next door to his dirt pit to start digging that. I also own property across the street from it. There is it's a dead-end road, basically. There's no way out. And these dump trucks, we counted, there was 17 in 1 hour that run up and down that road, excess of, I guess, 65 miles an hour, 45 miles. We have little ones. I'm trying to talk fast so everybody gets their time. In the old dirt pit, he is wanting, the next agenda is put an RV park there. You know, water, speed, everything, dust, dirt, you know, development. People want to do things, but I'm surrounded by 3 of them, and we're just kind of burned out on these dirt pits. And we just kind of at the point to where, what do? It's 7 days a week, all day long. And I mean, they ran over ducks and dogs, and not necessarily the applicant, but the other dump truck drivers. It's just, I got little ones, 4, 2, and 6 months, and I mean, we enjoy our neighborhood, riding our golf carts, but now we have to watch out for the dump trucks coming. But again, I've got one behind me, his, and then also got another one with all in that area within 3,000 feet, and it's I oppose it.
Thank you, sir.
Burn down on it. Thank you.
Appreciate it. And I want to apologize to Ms. Gale. I didn't open up for the board to ask you any questions as the applicant, but we will go back to that if we take these, but I want to apologize for that. Ms. Phyllis Nash.
Hi, my name is Phyllis Nash, and I'm here, and I live at 9674 Simon LeBlue Road, and I'm here, Mr. Cormier, who lives at 1239 Orsan LeBlue Road, asked that I come before him. He's did some research in this area, and he had some comments. Can I hand this to you guys so y'all can be looking at it? Yes, sir. Okay. Now, as I said, I'm here just talking for Mr. Cormier. Dear Calcasieu Parish Police Jury, I'm currently researching the future development of the McCardle sand and dirt pits on Orsan Blue Road in South Lake Charles. See attached Figure 1. My residence property is immediately to the west of the McCardle pits, as shown in Figure 1. Red line shows my residence. There is a proposed expansion, and our concern is the exposed open unlined earthen pits are already too large in size and depth and have exposed the groundwater sands in the area. In other words, these open unlined earthen pits have grown in size to the extent that they have exposed and damaged groundwater sands, the fresh water, that are protected from contamination according to the Louisiana environmental regulations. Groundwater is protected water under the Clean Water Act 1972 and 1978. the Safe Drinking Water Act of 1974 and the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act of 1976. Following is a review of our concerns and reason to halt further development of the sand and dirt pits until further evaluations can be done. The runoff of surface waters into these open, unlined earthen pits exposed to the freshwater groundwater is contaminants that potentially pollute and render the groundwater unusable for its intended purposes. Groundwater is potable water and is reserved for future use, and it provides fresh water to trees, soils, farmland, etc. in the area. There has been no testing of groundwater around the existing open, unlined earthen pits. The testing would include boring holes around the perimeter of the pits to depths below the exposed sands, followed by pulling or withdrawing water samples and sending them to a professional laboratory for testing. These test results would be compared to acceptable levels of constituents for metals, bacteria, salts, radioactive materials, etc. This is a common practice to test groundwater. Companies such as Airby Environmental and Icon Environmental perform these type of testings on a daily basis in the Calcasieu and Cameron Parish areas. This area has also been flooded by Hurricanes Rita and Ike waters that contain bacteria that reached and more probably then not contaminated the fresh groundwater. The excessive exposure of the groundwater to pump down or draw down to the pits has negatively lowered the water levels nearby freshwater bodies, including fish ponds, particularly on the 1239 or Sandal Blue Road property to the west of the McCardle pits.
Ms. Nash, I apologize, that's your time. I know you got a few more things. We just kind of touch on it.
Okay.
So just kind of touch on it, then you got.
Okay, okay, I sure will. There has not been an engineer and scientific evaluation of the effects of the groundwater at the McCardle pits. The aerial historical view of the McCardle property areas of the expanded pit sizes shows that continual expansion may have violated previous permitting. And there also has not been an engineering study of the effects on these deep pits in slowing or subsidence to adjacent property owners. And then he says, we trust that you will review the excessive development of the open, unlined earthen pits that has exposed the groundwater to contaminants without any testing or evaluation of the negative effects of the environment. It is time to thoroughly evaluate the effects of the McCardle open, unlined earthen pits on groundwater in the area, including testing. This must be done prior to any further expansion. Sincerely, Randy Cormier.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Any questions from Ms. Nash on behalf of Randy Cormier? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Guthrie Perry.
Hello. I'm Guthrie Perry, 1285 Arsena Blue Road. And I'm kind of in an awkward position because I'm talking against a project, I am not for it, of a very good friend of ours. But a lot of the things she said, I concur with. The particular property is 230 yards from my house, my yard. In that report she's got, she mentioned subsidence. It's a very real thing. I was with Wildlife and Fisheries for like 45 years. I started as a biologist, fishery biologist. We used to go and stock fish ponds, check people's ponds out in the 60s and 70s. Without exception, I'd go to a pond that someone had sold dirt out of. Hey, it's only 15 foot deep. We sold the dirt. We'd go in there with our gear, 3 foot deep, 4 foot deep. Okay, that water has hard lateral movement. When it comes, it pulls silt. Okay, the land near there is going to go down because of the silt moving down. And we don't need more subsidence in our area. They mentioned some floods here a few weeks ago. All down at the end of the road was flooded. Our roads were flooded. Randy really had some problems. Another issue would be maybe turbidity. It wasn't mentioned earlier about that 100-acre pit, but I'd be concerned about turbidity, its effects on fisheries and wildlife. The next thing, we're in a VE zone. Okay, you have a deeper area out there. It's going to increase wave heights with the winds and so forth. A lot of Randy's metal off his buildings wound up in my yard. I'm kind of northwest of him. And he's got some pits over there. I don't know how deep those pits are. And you get that increased wind, wave action, even though it may be insignificant on a 40-acre pond, it might have some amount of some increasing of that, and the levee heights, his surrounding levee. Does he have to meet that base flood elevation with those levees around that water pit? I don't know if that's ever been brought up. And then I'm a little bit concerned about our property values. You know, and then I concur with Mr. Guidry about the increased number of trucks and all too. I see the trucks, and mentioning too the pump off. Chad has been, I think, pretty good about pump off. When we have a big flood, he doesn't just pump that water in the road ditch right away and continue to flood us. He lets it start settling before he does start pumping off. But increased area, you're going to have increased water, increased pumping. And those fish ponds I mentioned that had silted in 3-4 foot deep, they were only dug one time and the water came in and filled them. If you pump that pond every time it rains, that's more silt coming from your surrounding neighbor's property, lessening the elevation. So that's the concerns I have is, you know, the subsidence and possibly property values in the area.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Questions for Mr. Perry? All right. Yeah, you want to come on back? First of all, we have any questions for Mr. Gill? We can ask those questions as well as you can rebut anything that was,
Just a couple of things. If traffic on the road is a problem and speed enforcement needs to be looked into, then by all means, then we need to talk to the sheriff's department about getting the appropriate patrols out there, because nobody wants to see dump trucks traveling at an excessive rate of speed. And that's certainly something that law enforcement can help with. They only have to show up 1 or 2 times, and the operators that are violating the law, the ones that might be doing it, we know are going to be called in to check on it. We heard quite a bit about the environmental component of it. This is not a disposal site. This is dirt coming out of it, just like every other dirt pit that's being approved, and there's nothing different. There's no requirement within your zoning ordinance or within your development ordinance that requires the type of testing and lining that's been referred to. If this was some type of a C&D landfill, maybe you'd have a different set of requirements, but that's not what we're talking about. We're really just talking about a plain old dirt pit where it's coming out of the earth. So I just don't know where that is. We've had a lot of talk and discussion, not just tonight, but overall about drainage. And the way you have a zero site impact is you have a detention pond. This is the ultimate detention pond because not only is the water from the site being contained on the site until it's controlled and pumped off, it's levied. He's got the whole thing levied around the entire perimeter of the site so that you don't have any off-site impact so that it's affecting the neighbors or that the neighbor's stuff is coming back this way. So that it's just a standard dirt pit that you have that's provided for in the ordinance, and it's no different than anything else that you've seen on the agenda tonight and we have in the past months leading up to this. If there's questions about the time of operations, no, they don't operate on Sundays. That's family day. We're glad to stipulate that there's nothing on Sundays. If we need to limit the hours somewhat on the Saturdays, that's okay. We can limit some restrictions just because with our rain and our weather, though sometimes when you have the opportunity to dig, you kind of have to do it sometimes on Saturdays. But if there's specific questions we have about the pit or the operation, we'd be glad to address that.
What type of a buffer zone do they currently have, and what's proposed for this particular site?
The buffer zone that exists right now, it's an earthen levee, and so as they've dug the pit, they've built up around it, and so it's literally a levee that's around what is the existing pit that's on the other side. The plan is to do the exact same thing on this side.
Yeah, I got a question maybe the staff can help with. I know ever since I've been on this board, we've been approving pits, great pits, and then they return in the fish ponds. We don't have no regulations, nowhere to check these ponds to see if it's safe for the fish that's in them. We don't have nothing.
Not on the local level, no.
Not on the state either.
Any other questions or comments?
Thank you.
Thank you. Are we ready for a vote? So, Ms. Cora, do a roll call, please.
Ms. Brown? No.
Mr. Little?
No.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Navarre?
No.
Ms. Dickerson?
Yes.
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 Item number 12 passes.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
we actually need 5 to pass. We've got 8 members tonight, so we need a majority, so we need 5. So you can, your vote, if you say yes, would pass that.
Okay, well, my vote, if I would be no. Okay, item number 12 fails. Item number 13, take appropriate action on case EX 04-025-16, a request by Western Real Estate LLC for an exception to allow residential development temporary workforce housing facility at 2751 Bayou Den Road in Ward 4. Entertain a motion for approval with stipulations.
So move.
Little moved, have a second. Dickerson seconds it, Ms. Wallace.
All righty, just give me a second. I was noting the file real quick so I didn't forget about the 5th vote. Okay, Western Real Estate. This property is located south of Sulphur and encompasses nearly 17 acres of heavy industrial zone land. Last month, a 5-acre portion of the property was rezoned from mixed residential to facilitate this exception request. If the exception is approved, the petitioners will lease the land to Lake City Lodging, who will construct a workforce housing facility in 3 stages. At build-out, the facility would consist of 650 beds in nearly 160 structures, an office, kitchen, recreation area, and over 650 parking spaces. The staff does recommend that this request be granted with the following stipulations: that the development adhere to the site plan on file with the division, provided that the director may authorize adjustments to site plans in light of technical or engineering considerations, that a drainage impact analysis and a traffic impact analysis must be submitted and approved by the Division of Planning and the Division of Engineering and Public Works prior to permit issuance, that the exception is for Western Real Estate and Lake City Lodging and is non-transferable, that a landscape plan must be submitted, that a natural buffer is maintained to the maximum extent possible, that all exterior lighting must be oriented inward toward the development or structures, that the Division of Planning and Development be provided with contract abstracts with customers within 30 days of execution, that the pods must be removed within 6 months of Western Real Estate or Lake City Lodging's contract end date with its customer, that the development is subject to a development agreement between Western Real Estate and Lake City Lodging and the police jury outlining the conditions of approval for rezoning, and future exception, I apologize, that's a mistake, outlining the conditions of the rezoning and the exception, as well as any mitigation measures identified by the TIA and the DIA, and shall include a code of conduct for residents, which can be amended upon mutual agreement, and that only residents be allowed to utilize this housing facility's park and ride service.
Thank you. Applicant, you have anything to add to the presentation, please?
Hi there. My name is Margaret Mitchell, and my address is 2751 Bayou Den Road, representing Western Real Estate and Lake City Lodging, LLC.
You want to say anything in your presentation?
No. Just wanted to, if there's any questions, I'm the person to ask.
Any questions? Okay. At this time, we have 3 cards. Mr. Tim Hall.
Thank you. I'm Tim Hall, plant manager of Louisiana Pigment, address 3300 Bayou Den Road. There's 3 basic points that I want to make about this proposed village. One, it's an industrial area. It's directly north of the Bacelle and northwest of Louisiana Pigment. 2, Bayou Den is a dead-end road. When we built Louisiana Pigment 25 years ago, it was Cronus, Louisiana. We worked with the parish, the state, the federal government trying to rebuild a bridge across Bayou Den so that there would be more than one means of egress. That bridge never was built, so we're still isolated on that bridge. It's a concern for emergencies, getting not only out of the area, but getting into the area for emergency vehicles. So that's the main point. Bayou Den ties into Highway 108, which is heavily traveled. Quite a number of people, thousands of people utilize that road on a daily basis. There's 3 railroad crossings between Bayou Den and Highway 108. The railroad works its own schedule, so you never know what the situation may be. And with Bayou Den being a dead-end road, you can back up on Bayou Den off of 108. Last but not least, talking about this is an industrial area. We have a local emergency planning committee, LEPC. I would request that these villages where they're going to be in industrial settings be forwarded to the LEPC for them to do a review, because they understand the emergency plans for all the plants. They understand the need of emergency attention, and they could do a review that they may pass it or hold it up. I don't know. Any questions?
Question from Mr. Hall? Thank you, sir. Mr. Larry Duracell.
I'm Larry Duracell. I live at 1309 Westmoreland in Lake Charles. And I'm here tonight speaking on behalf of the Lake Area Industry Alliance, 24 member companies, which are all of the major industrial facilities in the area. Industry works very hard, very diligently to minimize the risk to its employees, its near neighbors, and the general community in which we operate. And putting a worker village that close to 2 operating plants and 2 large Utilene storage facilities, tanks, just increases the risk and work counter to what industry tries to do in order to minimize risk. Although I'm not here speaking on behalf of LEPC and OEP, I would venture to say that if they were here tonight, they would share that same concern that I have. As previously mentioned, Bayou Den Road is a dead-end road. So it provides only one means of egress and ingress. And if there is any kind of an emergency that would occur that required an evacuation, 750 people located in a residential facility would be at risk. Would be a very difficult situation to handle. So now, having said all of this, I fully understand the challenge associated with worker villages. Nobody wants it in their backyard, and I get that. But what we have to keep in mind is that, and one of the objectives is to locate the villages near where the major projects are taking place. Well, there are no major projects taking place along the 108 corridor. They're all on the other side of the interstate or in other parts of the area. So moving workers from there to the major job sites just adds to the congestion and the traffic issues that are already present on Highway 108. And you know, I could go on and just get into a lot of detail with you, but I think you clearly understand where I'm coming from and where all of these plants are coming from relative to trying to minimize risk. Locating a residential facility inside of an industrial zone is really not a good thing. The other concern that it causes for me is that if we do this, if you do this and approve this, is that going to set a precedence down the road to locate other residential facilities inside industrial zones? Not a good thing. So I'm formally asking you and requesting you to not approve this project. Now, I drove by there yesterday, and work has already started. They're moving dirt around, getting the site ready. And maybe that's okay with the procedure, but it seems like it's putting the cart before the horse. So anyway, my request here tonight is that you not approve this project and not let it go forward. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Larry? Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Daniel Pichette, I might have pronounced that name incorrectly.
Hi, I'm sorry. Sorry. I'm Daniel Pichette. I'm the site manager for Lyondell Basel. I live at 5488 Moulin Rouge in Lake Charles. And just like Larry and Tim, I think it's not a good idea for the safety of those 650 workers to live right. I mean, my plant is right across the street south of the yellow square. And if there's an emergency, it's not going to be possible to evacuate those 650 guys quickly. And I'm really concerned. I mean, we do everything we can to make those plants safe. But you have Louisiana Pigment, you have me, you have the two spheres right next to it. Anything can happen. And those guys, we will not be able to evacuate them quickly in case of emergency. So, and it's also, you know, starts a precedent. I mean, there's a lot of land there right next to it, and maybe next week or next month you'll have a similar request for another 650 or so workers village right next to it, and that's increasing and increasing the risk. When we look at the risk outside of our fence, it's probability times exposure, and exposure is the number of people there. And in that case, right now, the exposure is minimum. There's very little people there. But if you multiply that by 650, I'm really, really concerned about the safety of those guys. So I really ask that this would not be approved. They are, and I understand that we need to locate those guys somewhere, but this is really too close for comfort.
Thank you, sir.
Questions?
Questions? All right. Ma'am, would you like to come back up and address any of those concerns?
Need to restate my name? Okay to speak? Okay. And addressing the gentleman's concerns previous, I guess I would just like to call into attention that in our previous meeting, transportation of residents was a concern, and so we have since entered into agreement with Coastal Transportation, Gulf Coast Transportation, and they have assured us that if we fill our site to capacity of the proposed 650 people, that egress under an hour is possible. And that was in regards to concerns about traffic. And so I guess I would just consider that as far as an evacuation plan in an emergency situation, we would definitely have to take into those considerations for emergency egress as well. So we have put some thought into that, and we are open to suggestions or any stipulations that you'd like to impose. And then in regards to another gentleman's previous discussion about work being done on the site is currently owned by Western Real Estate, and it is theirs to do with what they please. They are also, the owner of Western Real Estate is also the owner of Port Aggregate, and he uses the dirt that has been dredged out of the bayou that's been stored there to fill holes, and he sells that dirt. So that is not in compliance to, or that is not the reason it's been moved in our regard. So those are just the concerns I'd like to address.
Have you all met with this local emergency planning commission?
We have not. This is the first that I've heard of them. I think you're referring to the LEPC, and we're open to conversations. If that's a suggestion you'd like to make, we would be happy to meet with them.
I just got one comment. I understand these plant managers mean by placing residential or communities in an industrial area that's put you to a risk as far as, but now, and it's my understanding that these villages are just temporarily.
Yes, sir.
They're not that permanent. Once they get through with these jobs, they move, right?
And they're occupied, they're occupied an average of 10 hours a day by residents. And then the rest of the day is us, maintaining the facility. But they sleep there and they get a quick bite to eat and then they're bussed back out.
And are the residents in this one proposed to be at a certain location?
In regards to their construction site?
Yeah.
Not yet. The two groups that we have under, I guess, they're not under contract, but we're in talks with. They actually, one is a electrical group, and they are working on both Sasol and Cameron. And then there's another group that's working, I believe, west of I-10, east of I-10. I'm not sure what.
And this coastal transportation, they're going to be transporting them at all times? It's not going to be individual vehicles? Correct.
Well, there will be probably 20% of the residents who will drive their own vehicles, being that they are supervisors and it's required that they take their vehicle to site every day. But the rest of the employees, it's included in their rent package that they have transportation to and from to minimize the traffic flow on Highway 108.
That's this park and ride?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Just a couple comments. I'd like to thank our plant managers for appearing at this meeting. For the last 2 years, we've been going through man camps and negotiating and hearing different things from different people. The biggest thing we've heard is get your place that's industrial, heavy industrial. Get your place in heavy industrial. I have had conversation with some of the managers in the area and some of the people that are trying to establish relationships and getting things going. There are 3 projects that I am aware of that's going to be going on within a 3-mile radius of that camp, some of them within 1.5 miles of that camp. So there is going to be a need for that. I've been on the record for the past 2 years with all these man camps that I'm not in favor of them. I did vote for 2 different ones. One of them is this one and one other one because they are in the location of the industrial market where these people need to be. That's going to slow down on the traffic on the roads. I think that the alliances need to get together, and I'm glad that they were brought up because I never realized that they had those alliances available to meet and try to help mitigate these problems because it's big problems for all of us. Now, it's even showing up now that the industrial, these men are coming to work for are having problems. So, it's good to have them here and to try to help us make decisions to help this parish move on and grow. This is a good location as far as I'm concerned because of that. I'm very satisfied that our industrial neighbors are very safe and they work very hard to keep us safe. I'm within 1.5 miles of one of the biggest bombs on the face of the earth, but they're safe. I know that this is not good for those 2 plants that's right there. The southerly winds are going to be blowing, but we've got to try to join together and do something for this. Like I said, all our leaders and that we have in the parish that we listen to have been pushing for a heavy industrial site for 2 years, and this is one that came up, and it's a smaller site than some of the others. So I think it could be a very good place for these workers if they become available, because I know that they're not going to build this unless they have contracts. So we're just trying to set a path for them to have a place should it happen. Thank you.
At full capacity, how many units will you have?
We've been approved to have 650 beds available to the public. Right now, in our site revisions, we are at 572, and our plan has been approved for 650, so we have a little room to adjust. But right now,
That's complete. That's not phase 1 or anything.
No, that's total. Yes, sir.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, ma'am. I believe we're ready for the vote. All righty. Roll call vote, Ms. Cora.
Ms. Dickerson? Sims,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Little,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yeah.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Navarre,
Yes.
Ms. Felicia,
Yes.
All right. Item 13 passes. 7-4. Item 13 passes. Thank you. Item 14. Take appropriate action on case EX 04-026-16, a request by Rodney Kittner for an exception to allow light commercial development, a restaurant, at 204 Highway 108 West in Ward 4. I entertain a motion for approval with stipulations.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Ms. Navarre, seconded by Ms. Brown. Ms. Wallace.
This property is located in Carlos and encompasses 5 acres of agricultural zone land. Currently on the property is the petitioner's home. If the exception is approved, the petitioner will locate a food truck on the land along with a structure to include restrooms and a food storage area. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the stipulations that the development adhere to the site plan on file and that permitting is subject to DOTD approval.
All right, thank you. Is there any additional information the applicant would like to mention? Your applicant?
I'm Rodney Kittner, 4416 Celine Drive, Highway 108. I'm here for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Kidner?
I'm not sure if this is for, would be maybe for the staff or for him. There's mention of parking spots. Is there something in the ordinances that requires so many spots for businesses or can you put what you need on there?
Well, we do have some parking ratios within the ordinance that tell you the minimum number of parking spaces that are required.
Okay.
So, yes, we do.
Got, if I may, I have a couple other
Go ahead,
questions.
go ahead. It's your area.
In regards to the food, is a food trailer?
Yes, sir. Just a full pull-behind food trailer, not a food truck that you drive.
Okay. And the commissary is a metal building or something?
It's going to be a wooden building, yes, sir.
And if I understood it right, you live to the west of this property? Is that your house to the west?
It's my parents' house, yes. Sir.
Okay.
What will be in the commissary?
The commissary is just for dry goods, basically. They're going to require us to have a sink, a restroom, stuff like that for mop water and stuff like that, but the main commissary is for storage of dry goods. We will have a refrigerator and a freezer, everything permitted by the health board. We're going by their regulations on everything that's in there.
So you're not having people in and out of that?
Oh, no, sir, not at all. That's employee use only because the truck itself is 8 foot by 28 foot. So unless you're going to go shopping every day, which is not even realistic, you got to have somewhere to store your stuff for the week or whatever, and that's what that is. And it's got to be up to code. We got the health board's approval on that building for code.
And the trailer's facing 27 or 108?
Actually, the trailer, if you're coming off of Highway 108, is going to be your entrance, and it's going to be basically a drive-through trailer. It's going to be a window where drive-through, and so basically the window will be facing west, actually facing that house. But the truck's going to run. I got a written, if you go to the next page on the plaque there, it's got a site plan right there. If you turn right on 108 right there, you turn into the driveway, and you'll just drive up to the food trailer and exit on Highway 27. And that's proposed by the DOTD. We don't want to do any traffic congestion or stopping or somebody trying to pull in off of 27 into the driveway. We'll get them on the Highway 108. And we did the specs for the driveway 140 long in case there is any, because it is a heavily traveled road on 27. So if I get people in the driveway, I get congestion in my driveway instead of 108 or 27. That's why we went so deep into the property, to kind of minimize anything on the state highways. And that was per DOTD as well.
any foot traffic would be basically those that's wanting to utilize the benches and park benches to eat? Is that
Yes,
what
sir,
that's
and that right there is something that we were thinking as a proposal, and that's all it for, you know, the pipeline workers and people that get off that come 4 or 5 on the truckload. It's just to give them room to sit right there and eat out of the shade real quick because they get their 30-minute or hour lunches, and they got to get back to their work sites. But no foot traffic into the facility at all, the food truck. That's employees only cooking. There's nobody. The only parking lot and those covers right there with a couple picnic tables was just to help groups of people that come from workers, pipelines, stuff like that.
Just to clarify again, are they coming off of 27 or are they going on 27?
They leaving my property, exiting onto 27.
Okay, so they're coming in on 108?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and going on 27.
So that gives any bottlenecking will be in my property. And it's 150 foot from that intersection, which gives, and the visibility north and south, there's no obstructions either way for anybody exiting my property. And it gives it a 150 foot buffer to if anybody does happen to come out on 108 at the same time someone's trying to exit my property.
in regards to hours of operation?
The mornings, I think right now we're proposing serving breakfast from like a 5 to 7, 5 to 8. It'll shut down for cooking. We'll have a lunch menu from say 11 to 2, and in the evenings it'll be like a 4:30 to 7. It's just a couple hours out of the day. Our plan of action here is to say, 100 plate lunches per occurrence, and once we sell out, we're done. We're shut down. So those hours might not always be open, those couple hours, if we sell out. And we got, I got photo sale signs saying open and close, enter and exits, and stuff like that. So anytime we sell out, the public will be notified with signs saying that we're closed or sold out or what the case may be.
Is your trailer demobilized or it can move?
It will be able to be moved in an emergency. We are getting we're getting the septic sewer, everything approved by the health board already to have something. It will be hard lined into sewage and water, electricity. But in the case of emergency, it will be, we don't plan on moving it.
All right.
With your picnic tables and stuff, do you have some kind of a buffer between you and your neighbor?
Yes, sir. We've met with the neighbors, and we're right now in the progress of putting up a 6-foot privacy fence all the way along that 270 foot between me and the neighbors. Off of that property line right there where those picnic tables are, between the picnic tables and the fence, you're going to have a 25-foot buffer, then the 6-foot fence, and then it's approximately, if I had, probably about 75 foot to his house from that fence. And also the reasoning with the fence is because I know early morning traffic, we're trying to cut off the headlights toward his house. I've met with him about that issue, and he's satisfied with that.
For the staff, do we need to do anything in regards to, is it in the application that a 6-foot privacy fence be set on that south side? That any lighting be faced inward? And a no park and ride type situation occur on the property? Does that need something to be?
Come back to that page. All we asked for was that the development adhere to the site plan on file and permitting be subject to DOTD approval. So the other 3 items that you mentioned, if the board wanted to add that, y'all would have to amend the motion.
At this time, I'd like to amend the motion by adding that a 6-foot privacy fence be installed on the south boundary, that any lighting be faced inward, and that no park and ride be established on this property.
All right. We have a motion to amend the original motion. Do I have a second? Need a second? You second? Ms. Brown seconds that. Okay. Any discussion?
I don't, what's the discussion? I'm sorry.
You want to repeat it? One of you? Go ahead, repeat it.
What the board is asking for is to add some stipulations to the approval, if it's granted, that a 6-foot privacy fence be constructed along the south boundary, that there be no park and ride at this location, and that the lighting face inward and to not intrude on the neighbors.
Yeah, approve it, pending those stipulations?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yeah, I will hear all those, for sure.
Okay. No further questions? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. All right, the motion passes for the amendment. Okay. Now let's vote on the actual action item, number 14. Any questions again about that? Comments? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 14 passes with
Thank you.
stated amendments. All right, thank you. Case number 15. Case number 15, take appropriate action on case RZ 08-02716, a request by His Heirs LLC to rezone from single-family residential R1 to manufactured home park RMHP to allow a manufactured home park 336 spaces in the 6700 block of Highway 90 East in Ward 8. I entertain a motion to approve with stipulations.
So moved.
Mr. Navarre moved. Any seconds?
Second.
Ms. Kirk, second. Ms. Wallace.
This property is located in the Manchester area and encompasses 60 acres of land. If the rezoning is approved, the petitioners will sell the land to a group of investors who plan to construct the manufactured home park. The proposed park will be constructed in phases to ensure appropriate public water capacity. The park will consist of 5,500 square feet per manufactured home, hard surface roads and parking, central garbage disposal, landscaping along Highway 90, 8-foot wooden fencing, and a monument sign. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following stipulations: that the development adhere to the site plan on file, that permitting is subject to DOTD approval, and that a DIA and a TIA may be required.
All right, thank you. Is there any comments by the applicant? The applicant? You the applicant? Oh, I thought you were the applicant. All right, I have two cards. Mr. Vince Rogers.
Good evening. I'm Vincent Rogers at 6701 East Highway 90. I've lived there for 37 years, so I'm about 75 feet from the proposed park. I have a mobile home park to the west of me already, and all the associated problems with that. I'm not opposed to the park, and I did call the planning and zoning to try to get a site plan, but I couldn't get anybody to return my call. The only, I have two issues that I'd like to address. I live on 2 acres right next door to the park in a home, my wife and I. The other acre, my daughter and son-in-law live there. So our back doors are about 75 feet from this mobile home park. I'd just like to have some kind of assurance from the developer that there'll be some kind of privacy fence or buffer zone or something to keep these mobile homes from being right in my yard. Like I say, I've lived there 37 years. Retired. I'd like to have a little bit of peace in my life. I already have problems with the park next door. Their tenants. Property value is going down the hill. So if they could put something up that would kind of protect me and my family, I'm okay. Second issue is, since Rita, we're now classified as a flood zone, and we've never flooded out there, but are they going to put retention ponds in? I have a tremendous amount of water along Highway 90 that drains into English Bayou eventually. So it does back up. This is a lot, 60 acres is a lot of area to drain. Are they going to make sure that this doesn't come over on my property? I already have drainage problems as it is. These things, I just need some kind of assurance from the jury or the developer. I don't see the developer here. You know, we were there first. So, and I'm not opposed to it. I know we need housing.
Mr. Rogers, let me ask you, which one is your home? Which one is your home?
The front one. I have 2 acres. If you notice, right between the mobile home park to the west and the 60 acres in the yellow, right in that northeast corner is my property. 3 acres right there. Well, yeah, and that's you know, that's
What you saying,
fine.
Wes,
It was
his property is
agricultural,
home
but
park as well?
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
yeah, and I understand, and that's fine. Like I say, I have no problem with the zoning. It just reassurance that when they do build this thing, and I did try to get a whole site plan, I just wasn't able to, that they're going to do the right thing. Let me tell you, I've been in the mobile home industry all my life.
Chairman, 3 minutes.
I built that park. So I know that over a period of time, mobile home parks deteriorate. And with that, so do the tenant base. Now, I already have a problem with crime and stuff around my home. When I have grandchildren, I don't want more problems. So all I'm asking for is some kind of a fence, privacy fence, and the drainage. The drainage is a big deal.
Thank you much.
So,
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Brad Evans?
Good afternoon, Board. Brad Evans, 6709 Bobolink Circle, Iowa, Louisiana. Thank you guys for listening to me. I'm actually located in the bottom left corner of the yellow highlight area where that little dark shaded area is. And I'm here speaking on behalf of the residents of that subdivision to the west of it, and that is East Town Estate subdivision, which we are vehemently opposed to changing the restrictions of this property from R1 to a mobile home park. A lot of us been there 10, 15 years. Here lately, we've had a tremendous amount of rain and a tremendous amount of flooding in that area. And that dark shaded area is pretty bad when it comes to the water draining, which drains directly into my property. I mean, it really looks like a river flowing into my property. I mean, it's pretty bad. I sent some pictures over. I don't know if they got them, but that's my house back there. So that's the road that I was trying to drive down, but that water's coming directly east or west. That's the fence line where that dirt pile is the property, the subject property. So that water's, yeah, I was about to launch the boat right there. So, you know, I'm going to talk about several issues that I think the residents are really, really concerned with. One, we definitely want to keep it an R1 restricted subdivision because of the lack of restricted subdivisions in the area. I just found out about it yesterday, so I did some snooping on relationship to the number of houses to the trailers, and it was pretty outstanding. It's anywhere from, with this approval, if it gets approved, you're potentially looking at almost 800 trailers within a mile to a half a mile radius of that subdivision, which it's only one of 2 subdivisions located in that Manchester area, that one and Horseshoe Park Acres. So between those 2, you're only looking at about 138 houses. So you're talking about a 6-to-1 ratio when it comes to mobile homes and houses. The other concern is there's property all around that we hope this doesn't set a precedent that there are other mobile home developments that are going to come in our neighborhood. It's been a concern of mine since I've been out there. I've lived peacefully for the last 15 years until, I don't know if the property just south of the development, it ended up being I think a soybean field, or it was harvested, and that's when I noticed the flooding. And when it does rain, the neighborhood just backs up. I mean, you can't even drive down the road, as you can see in the pictures. So, you know, there's 336 new units. There's a potential for 500 or more new vehicles on Highway 90, which is already pretty busy at times, especially in the morning. The size of the park, not to mention, I don't try to say that it brings down the value of my house. I'm in banking, so I've pretty much reviewed hundreds of appraisals in my career, and I've never seen a mobile home compared to a house, never. But it does make my house less marketable. It makes it less sellable, it less appealing to another homeowner if I choose to sell my house, because I'm literally surrounded by mobile homes. Even on McCowan Road, I didn't even count those. You've got Highway 90 East, you have Country Air, you have Saddlebrook, which is a pretty nice on 397 and McCowan Road that's a little restricted. Then there's one across the street from Highway 90 East. So you've got a lot of houses or mobile homes that I really don't want to talk bad about people that live in mobile homes. I really don't. But from an aesthetic standpoint and from a neighborly standpoint, one of my neighbors here she literally keeps sandbags in her front yard. When it rains, she basically just kicks them over so the rain doesn't come in her house.
Okay.
There's 3 or 4 neighbors that are like that.
All right.
So.
Thank you so much. You mentioned you were representing the neighborhood.
Mhm.
If everyone in the East Town Estates want to raise their hand or stand and say that.
Yeah, you can see we have a lot of
Thank you.
concerned residents that are really opposed to this. And I'm not against development. I'm not against houses. I just think that the R1 restriction needs to be kept in place to keep the integrity for the neighborhood, for the actual Manchester area, for that part.
Thank you so much. Any questions for Mr. Evans? Okay, thank you. And do I understand that the developer is not here? Oh, okay.
We're here, we're just quiet. My name is Jim Jarnigan, live at 409 East Jefferson Drive in Lake Charles. And I work with Southwest Homes, will be the investor once we get everything going. But first, I'd like to introduce our engineer, Eric Connor, and he's going to discuss the drainage.
My name's Eric Connor. I live at 3200 Vincent Road, in Lake Charles. As far as the drainage is concerned, at this point, all we've done is created a plat for the development to show what was being planned. We have not done any drainage impact studies at this point, but that will be required as we progress into the design. Anytime we do a design like this, we follow the parish ordinances and provide a drainage impact study. And in this case, I think a traffic impact study possibly.
Ms. Wallace?
If I may, Mr. Connor, I believe that the site plan indicates that there's going to be an 8-foot privacy fence.
There should be one along the, I forget which sides it is. There's like 2 or 3 sides, especially next door to the residence. There's a privacy fence called out on the plot plan.
On the west side of your property, west and south?
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
But only a portion.
Yep. And there is space that's allocated for stormwater detention to have zero impact off-site. Those aren't designed yet, but it's just shown that there's a space allocated for that. So we know there will be stormwater detention required.
Mr. Crane?
I think Mr. Rogers indicated he lives to the west here, and so I just want to point out that even though there's an 8-foot privacy fence in some portions of this property, it is not adjacent to him. So he was, as you know, he was asking for some relief with that. So
He lives to the west or to the east of it?
This particular plan on the site plan, it indicates to the west.
Mm-hmm.
No problem.
He's between the other trailer park and this. new-
Correct. If
Oh,
you,
okay.
if you look at the site plan, his property runs from the, from Highway 90 going south, and then it abuts 90 East Trailer Park.
Oh, I see, okay. I thought it was the other side.
Yeah. They are putting it on the other side, on the east side, but on the west side, adjacent to Mr. Rogers, they haven't indicated that there, so just wanted to point that out.
That's on that west side.
I think the only location we put fencing, privacy
It's on-
fencing, was where we had
it's
two
on the
different type
first
zones.
portion. 440 foot on the west side. The south corner going north. Yes, it is right there.
Okay. Any questions for Phil? Any other comments?
I guess maybe more so to the staff, in regards to one egress, one entrance, one egress for some 300 and some odd homes. Is there restrictions or ordinances to cover how people can get out of facilities such as this with just one entrance, emergency type situations?
Well, the access points are going to be regulated by DOTD.
Okay.
And historically, they prefer less. Less is more to DOTD.
But to answer your question, Mr. Lowe, there is not an ordinance that,
Regulates
a
that?
parish ordinance that regulates
Okay,
that.
thank you.
Now,
I got one.
okay, hold one second, please. It mentions that a drainage impact study may be required. What would specify the may or shall?
We have some waivers set up in the ordinance that relate to the amount of pervious surface and the acreage of the project and things like that. Mr. Connor can probably tell us better, but typically the engineers will do some calculations to justify if they qualify for a waiver, and then the parish engineer would be able to grant that waiver.
There's
Mr.
a
Connor may
possibility
have
they
done
wouldn't-
something
They wouldn't have
preliminary.
to do a drainage impact study.
Sir?
There's a possibility they wouldn't have to do a drainage impact study.
If they could show with the drainage calculations that they wouldn't have a negative impact on the area drainage?
Is there planned any retention ponds or any
Yes,
detention?
Mr.
area?
Gilroy, on the plat, there's one on the northeast corner, after you come into the development. There's an existing pond there, looking at expanding that, to provide stormwater detention. And then also on the very south end is some areas that we called out for stormwater detention. Even though a waiver may be possible, most cases, the parish is going to look at it and require no impact off-site from a development.
I'm sorry, Mr. Williams, you had a comment?
Yeah, my question was, how would the privacy fence or the buffer zone do a thing about the flooding in there? That's what I'm not going to affect. Still got a flooding problem.
Okay. Any other questions? Y'all ready to vote? Comment? Ms. Cora, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Brown?
No.
Ms. Felicia?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Nope.
Ms. Dickerson?
Yes.
Mr. Little?
No.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Navarre?
Yes. Ms. Giller, you must vote here.
Huh?
You need to vote here, Ms. Giller.
Okay, no. It's a tie.
Fails. Item fails.
Item number 15 fails. Okay. We'll let the room clear out a bit, please. Item number 16, take appropriate action on case RZ 03-028.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry.
Let's let him clear out just a little bit before
Okay.
we start.
If you're leaving the room, would you please do so speedily? We can continue on with the meeting. All righty. Item number 16. Take appropriate action on case RZ 03-028-16, a request by Glenn Kelly to rezone from agriculture A1 to central business commercial C3 to allow central business commercial development, mini warehouses. Location of request is 6478 Big Lake Road in Ward 3. I will now entertain a motion for approval with stipulations.
So moved.
Been properly moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Galatia seconds. Ms. Wallace.
This property is located adjacent to the city of Lake Charles and encompasses 6.6 acres. Currently on the property is a house. If the rezoning is approved, the petitioner will sell the land to Clay Heath. Mr. Heath will construct a storage facility west of the existing home. The facility will consist of 33 enclosed storage bays and 14 open shed bays. All of the bays will be of metal construction and will be enclosed with a 6-foot wooden fence. The drives and parking areas will consist of aggregate material. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends the request be granted with the following stipulations: that the development adhere to the site plan on file, that all exterior lighting must be oriented inward toward the development, that permitting is subject to DOTD approval, that a drainage impact analysis and a traffic impact analysis may be required, and that the use must be screened in accordance with Section 26-50 of the Parish Code.
All right, thank you. Have a developer for any questions, Mr. Clay Heath.
Clay Heath, 1925 Riverside Drive, Lake Charles, Louisiana, 70601. I'm just here for any questions.
Mr. Navarre.
I have a question for the staff. Is this going to be, is the property going to have to be raised up to meet the flood zoning? Because, I mean, we've had problems with people, you know.
I'm pulling up the flood zone, just bear with me. It is in a flood zone AE with a base flood elevation requirement of 9 feet. So the land will have to be elevated to 9 feet. Now, what the land is today, you know, it could be 8.5 feet today, or it could be lower. So, but yes, it
the
will have
answer
to meet
is
the requirements.
The answer is yes, that it does have to meet the flood.
Okay.
And the 1-foot freeboard requirement. We have a 1-foot freeboard.
Okay. Any other question for Mr. Heath or the staff? Okay, we have no other cards on this. Any other questions, comments by the board? And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 16 passes. Item number 17, take appropriate action on case RZ 03-029-16, a request by BDN Dwellings LLC to rezone from mixed residential R2 to manufactured home park, RMHP, to allow a manufactured home park 3 spaces at 4227, 4229, and 4231 Ellis Street in Ward 3. Entertain a motion for approval with stipulations, please.
So moved.
Mr. Navarre, and I need a second.
Second.
Mr. Kurt, seconds. Ms. Wallace.
This property is located in the Mallard Junction area and encompasses nearly a half acre. Currently on the property are 2 manufactured homes. The petitioner would like to place a 3rd manufactured home on the property, which necessitates the rezoning. All 3 units will be used for rental. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following stipulations: that the development adhere to the site plan on file, and that the manufactured homes must be skirted prior to utilities being connected.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here with any additional comments? Okay, we don't have any blue cards on this one? All right, any questions or comments by the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Being none, item 17 passes. Item number 18, take appropriate action on case RZ 04-030-16, a request by John Leggett to rezone from manufactured home park, or MHP, and mixed residential, R2, to recreational vehicle park, or RVP, to allow a recreational vehicle park, 15 spaces. Location of this request is 3596 Pete Say Road in Ward 4. Entertain a motion for approval with stipulations.
So moved.
Ms. Brown moves. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Dickerson seconds. Ms. Wallace.
This property is located in Carlos and encompasses 6 acres. The entire property is currently being used as a manufactured home park with some spaces for recreational vehicles. The petitioner would like to replace the existing oxidation ponds on the west side of the property with a community sewer system. He would then like to place 15 recreational vehicles on that portion of the property. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following stipulations: that the development adhere to the site plan on file, that all exterior lighting must be oriented inward toward the development, that a drainage impact analysis and a traffic impact analysis may be required, that the use must be screened in accordance with Section 26-50 of the Parish Code, that RV park model types are prohibited, and that only the west 134 feet and the south 62 feet of the property be rezoned.
Okay. All right. Is the applicant here for any additional? Come on up, please. State your name and address.
My name is John Leggett. I live at 1157 Curry Drive, Sulphur, Louisiana, 70665.
So you live adjacent to the site?
I live 1 mile down the road, yes, sir. Curry is right there, hits Pizza, and you take a right there on Pizza. I live back to the east.
Now, you're keeping the other part a mobile home park, correct? You just, that,
Yeah, we're going to have, I'm going to keep it, I'm not getting rid of no mobile homes that's in there. I got a lot of older people that we're taking care of, and they're going to be taken care of. Nothing's going to be shipped out unless they don't pay their rent.
all right. Any questions, additional questions for Mr. Leggett? Anything you would like to add?
No, it's pretty,
All right.
pretty black and white, you know.
The existing oxidation pond
Yes, sir.
is going to be closed in, and then
Yes.
a new system according to whatever the law.
We already got that in engineering, yes, sir.
Is there anything in regards to your south neighbors, or is that you on the south side?
The south side, we have a big privacy. It's also a wooden fence plus a vines that we've let grown up to where you can't even see the south people.
So it is,
whatsoever.
you've got an existing buffer?
Yes, sir.
on that.
Yes, sir. And then to the west of us, it's owned by Powell Lumber Company. There's nothing to the west. And then north, there's a 60-foot right-of-way that owns by Powell to access that property behind us to the west, to our neighbor to the north. So we're kind of secluded right there. The sheriff department don't even know where we're at.
Any additional questions? So right now, is this land vacant land
What's that, sir?
where you putting this RV?
It's the whole piece of property is oxidation ponds.
Oh, I see.
The whole
That's-
section is oxidation.
okay.
It's an acre and a half oxidation ponds.
That's what you're talking
It's 133 by 400 feet wide of oxidation ponds. That was built back in the 70s. And we're going to cover it all in, make it a lot nicer.
I see.
Yes, sir.
I'll follow you now.
And this is his buffer he was speaking of.
Okay. All right, any other additional questions? All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
We're ready to vote? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Being none, item 18 passes. Item number 19, again with Mr. Leggett, taking appropriate action on case VA 04-021-16. All righty. A request by John Leggett for a variance to decrease the buffer yard requirement. It's like we're at Kmart, they're about to close us down, huh? Decrease the buffer yard requirement, required 20 feet, requesting 5 feet at 3596 Pete Say Road in Ward 4. Entertain a motion for approval with stipulations.
So moved.
Mr. Navarro moves, do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Galatia seconds, Ms. Wallace.
This is the same property as in the previous request. Parish code requires RV parks in this area have a 20-foot buffer. And the petitioner would just like a variance for a 5-foot buffer.
Okay. Any questions on
Oh,
that?
I'm sorry.
All the stipulations are all the same.
It's getting late. The staff recommends that the request be granted with the same stipulations that were imposed on the
We
rezone.
can read. All righty. Any questions, comments? Okay. No blue cards on this. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Being none, item 19 passes. Item number 20, take appropriate action on case RZ 08-031-16, a request by David LeBlue to rezone from agriculture A1 to manufactured home park, or MHP, to allow a manufactured home park 3 spaces at 1754 PL Miller Road in Ward 8. I need a motion to approve stipulations.
So moved.
Ms. Galatia moves. I have a second.
Second.
Ms. Coach Williams seconded. Ms. Wallace.
This property is located in the LeBlue settlement area and encompasses just under half an acre. In 2015, the land was divided from a larger tract in a judicial partition and is currently vacant. The petitioner would like to install 3 manufactured homes on the lot. Because the development is not consistent with the character of the area, the staff recommends that the request be denied. Should the board grant the request, the staff recommends the following stipulations: that the development adhere to the site plan on file, and that the manufactured homes must be skirted prior to utilities being connected.
All right, thank you. Are you Mr. LeBlue?
Yes, sir. David LeBlue. I live at 1314 Ford Street. The property is listed as agricultural. There's probably not even farming within a mile of where the house is at. The staff says it's not consistent with what the area is being used for, but along P.L. Miller Road and Roy Araby Road, there are mobile homes, wood frame homes, and brick homes, from impeccable yards to, in some cases, not necessarily so well kept. I propose to put 3 brand-new 3-bedroom mobile homes. It's 7,100 feet per mobile home. Initially, I'm going to approach area industry. I would like to set this up as corporate housing, where I pay all the bills. They can move their employees in, everything paid. It's calling it a mobile home park, but I'm technically going to own all the mobile homes. There won't be any homes coming in and out of the place. I just feel like the statement of not consistent with the area is not so true with respect to the staff based on the other properties that are around there.
You have 1 mobile home on there right now?
There was a mobile home there at one time, but it's been moved.
Okay, so there's nothing on the property now?
Nothing there now.
Any questions for Mr. LeBlue?
And Mr. Guillory,
Yes.
if I could explain, when the staff recommended against it because it wasn't consistent with the area, it's our findings that typically where you see more than 1 development on the lot, it's family. And where this is going to be 3 rental units, we felt like that was inconsistent.
I see.
But mobile home parks are not families. I mean, how can that, everybody that lives in a mobile home park is not related, so why would that be applicable here?
Well, no, she's addressing the issue of inconsistent with the area. The others that she's saying are mostly family. Someone asks for
Okay.
a separate, a unit for a grandmother or mom, live in the backyard or something like that.
I'd
This one
also
wouldn't
like
be.
to add, with all this talk about the need for housing, they have talking about all these man camps and things. I'm going to be providing family housing, and there's going to be a need for that also.
Great. Any other questions for Mr. Blue? All right, thank you.
Yeah. And I filled out a blue card. getting over there.
Okay. We have two for Mr. A.W. Broussard. Is this the same A.W. Broussard, or are there two A.W. Broussards here? You one? Yeah. Oh, one person? Okay, come on up.
You just want to make sure you got hurt.
I guess so.
I want to feel that accurate. First of all, my name is A.W. Broussard. I live on 6707 Roy Araby Road. Whenever I put my mobile home there, I had multiple restrictions I had to go through in order to do it. I also spent thousands of dollars. Here is a petition I have on what he's trying to do. We have anywhere from 13 to 14 kids that actually play on that road. We really don't need no more than what we already have, because we're having issues on that residence, in that area already. We have like RVs that are just sitting at houses where people are living in. We have some where we've had multiple issues with the sheriff's department. It's just not the place to have that, because we don't know who's going to live there. And like I said, we have anywhere from 13 to 14 kids from ages 2 to 12 that play on that road. And the property is so small. Looking at that property it's ridiculous on what I had to go through to put my trailer where it's at in order for him to drop 3 on that piece of property. And there's already one house, as you can see, going east and west, basically on that property. So you're trying to throw 3 more trailers on a piece of property. I don't even know where you're going to park the cars. I firmly disapprove what's trying to happen here.
Thank you so much. Any questions for Mr. Broussard? Thank you.
Y'all, can I give you this?
Yeah, give it to Mr. Fran.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Keith Reynolds.
Mr. Chairman, how many opposition cards?
That's the only one.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name's Keith Reynolds. I live at 6725 Roy Araby Road. And I come to oppose this request, and I ask that the board deny the request. First of all, Mr. LeBlue does not live there. He's going to park 3 rent trailers there, or he wants to. And then we're going to be left to put up with whatever comes in there. The property is, everything around that property is agricultural. They're mostly, land is owned, not rented. And it's going to definitely, if he gets that rezoned, it's going to automatically devalue the property in the area. There are trailers on the road, but they're all on, they're, like they said, that's family. They're all family units. And I just don't think, if he, that, like I said, that's a half-acre lot. That's what, like 150 by 125? And he wants to put 3 16 by 80 trailers on there. There's no room. He's gonna, he already, the drainage is bad in that area, and he already has one driveway there that he bottlenecks the drainage because he put a culvert, and he turned a 6-foot or 8-foot road ditch into a 12-inch culvert. And he's going to put 2 more of those. That's going to make it even worse. And it floods on that corner right there, bad, when it rains.
All right.
So I just want to.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Reynolds?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. LeBlue, you want to come back up and address any of that?
I'm sure that I'd have to follow any stipulations that anyone putting any form of housing there would have to follow. The parish requires X number of square feet for a mobile home park, and I surpass that by quite a bit, 7,100 feet per lot. I didn't put the driveway that is there now. I intend on putting 3 driveways, 20-foot wide, with substantial culvert size, whatever the parish requires. These are going to be family homes. Like I said, I'm going to try to do corporate housing, so these are going to be people with jobs, working, probably with some children to play with their children. And like I say, these are going to be 3 brand-new homes. It's not going to be any dilapidated RVs, anything like that parked there. And I'll follow any stipulations that the board requires as far as any changes that need to be made to my plan.
Thank you. Any questions again from Mr. LeBlue?
Excuse me, can I know one more thing? How many?
No, no, sir. No, no, please don't call out from here. I believe I will address this. I believe his question was how many people in the neighborhood that's opposing this, and I will address that. If that is, you can raise your hand. Thank you. Not, well, I mean, you know, not
Against
support it.
it.
Yeah, against it. Here to support you. All right. Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay, let's go ahead and take a roll call vote. Ms. Cora?
Mr. Navar?
No.
Ms. Brown?
No.
Ms. Felicia?
No.
Mr. Williams?
No.
Mr. Little?
No.
Mr. Smith?
No.
Ms. Dickerson?
No.
Item 20 fails. Okay, item number 21. Take appropriate action on case RZ 03-032-16. Okay, we'll give y'all time to please exit swiftly. I'll start again. Item 21, take appropriate action on case RZ 03-032-16, a request by the Chad Richard McCardle Trust to rezone from agriculture A1 to recreational vehicle park or RVP to allow a recreational vehicle park 32 spaces at 1199 Arsene LeBlue Road in Ward 3. I entertain a motion for approval with stipulations.
So moved.
Mr. Navar moves, Coach Williams seconds. Ms. Wallace?
I think we might be, never mind, we might have had some technical difficulty. This property is located south of Lake Charles and encompasses approximately 8 acres. If the rezoning is approved, the petitioner plans to construct a 32-space RV park. The park will include a dumpster, picnic and play areas, an office, a laundry facility, a bathhouse, security lighting, a brick and wood sign, aggregate drives and parking, and landscaping. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following stipulations: that the development adhere to the site plan on file, that all exterior lighting must be oriented inward toward the development, that a drainage impact analysis and a traffic impact analysis may be required, that the use must be screened in accordance with Section 26-50 of the Parish Code of Ordinances, and that RV park model types are prohibited.
All right, thank you. Any additional comments, Mr. Gale?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Tom Gale, 713 Kirby Street, Lake Charles. I'm here on behalf of Mr. McCardle in favor of the development. This is the dirt pit that he has dug out, and so the picture that you're seeing on the display is a little bit dated. The portion of the property that he'd like to use as an RV park is the northern portion of the property, and that's the high ground that's left after it's already been dug out. And so the remainder to the south is going to be water when it's all dug. The fact that this was a dirt pit makes this really a unique site because there's essentially a moat all the way around it. And so there is a buffer, there is a mound, earthen mound, that is to the west where the only residence is. To the south is going to be water, and to the east, right now it's water. He did want to make another dirt pit to make it larger water. But that's the current design and the plan. When he originally dug this out, he elevated the front of the property so that the common areas that's required by the zoning ordinance, such as the bathhouse and the laundry, is already going to be up, so it'll be elevated. It's not going to have a drainage impact on the area. It's isolated and certainly have no problems with the recommendations of the staff.
Do you know what that elevation is?
The elevation on the property that has not been dug out is at the base flood elevation. The stuff that's in the front is up at, 10 or 12 feet.
Any questions for Mr. Gale?
When you say the front, I just want to make sure what's in that drawing.
The north, correct.
Right, okay.
Say again, say that question again. What'd you ask?
If, when he says the front, he's referencing what's adjacent to Arsene LeBrou Road.
Correct.
North side.
I think on the illustration, it's outlined in gold.
Correct.
That's correct. And the site plan is actually turned east to west instead of north to south. It's oriented different than this.
And south of that is all water now. You say it's already dug out.
Not completely dug out yet, but it will be. Substantially. Right now, what's left is sand, so it's coming out.
And where's the property that we just talked about? Is that east of that? Okay.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Any other questions for Mr. LeBlue? I mean, not Mr. Gale, I'm sorry. Okay. All righty. We have four in opposition. A couple have spoken on the last one, so if there are, if there are same comments, we ask that you please, refrain and give time to others, but the new comments, of course, you're definitely welcome to come up. Mr. Jeff Guidry.
Mr. Chair, 2 minutes per speaker.
Okay, thank you. 2 minutes per speaker.
Jeff Guidry, 1075 Arsene LeBlue Road, Lake Charles. Again, I don't think everybody's getting their point as far as these people left. Everybody opposes it. We're here. We didn't know to fill out a card to oppose it. I mean, if you want to ask everybody to stand up who's opposed to it, they can do that. The same thing with the dirt pit. I felt like the dirt pit went south. A lot of people come up to me and said, hey, the dirt pit, do we have to fill out a card to oppose it? Or everybody else on the dirt pit, we didn't get to ask who's against it. Everybody, 75% of the people sitting down are opposed to the dirt pit and the RV park. That's what we're here for. So again, I feel like the dirt pit wasn't fair because only 3 people spoke and everybody didn't know. If everybody opposed to it has to fill out a card, well,
Didn't it fail?
No, it
No, it failed.
passed.
Nope.
And I've got people sitting there that's opposed to it. That
Didn't it fail?
It failed. It failed.
It was an even vote. When it's
failed.
an even vote, it failed.
Oh, I'm
It
sorry.
failed.
I'm in another world, and I was talking. There's so much going on tonight. Anyway, RV park. I'm
But because
opposed
I
to
am a
it.
fair person, I will humor you. Those that are opposed to this, would you please raise your hand? Thank you.
Well, I'm
Thank you.
done. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Guidry. Thank y'all. All righty. Mr. Guthrie Perry.
I do not understand.
Name's Guthrie Perry, 1285 Arsene LeBlue Road. And like I said earlier, Chad's a good friend of mine. I probably won't get a Christmas card this year, but we're opposed to the RV park. Several issues. One, and I know a lot of people in here did not fill out the card. They're saying they were against it, and a couple of them spoke to me a few minutes ago. But, the first thing, traffic increase on that road, we don't need that. Property value is going to decrease. Litter on the road. There's a trailer park, first of all, we're blessed that it's a dead-end road, and there's not a few people that live further down from us. And, but there's a little trailer park located just west of us, and there's probably only 10 or 12 trailers in there. I hadn't counted. But in the morning, when I would go out and get my paper, there was always a Busch beer can in the ditch out there. A couple of years ago, evidently the guy moved because the beer can is not there anymore. And there's all kind of styrofoam cups and all kind of litter and stuff in those ditches. And the only time that stuff gets cleaned out is when we get a flood event. The next thing, I didn't realize he was going to have it tied in with the, manicured and like fencing, but I was concerned also about liability, being that close to water. Is it going to be fenced where the kids can't get out there and at night swimming or in that dirt pit? Kids are kids. I was one once myself. So again, I am against it, and that's what I wanted to say.
Okay. And just for clarification, no, you do not need to fill out a blue card just to oppose it. That is, if you wanted to speak. And so, no one did anything incorrectly. I just wanted to let you all know that. Mr. Chris Eagleston. I apologize if I pronounced it miscorrectly.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you very much for hearing me out tonight. I really appreciate the time. Chris Eggleston, and I'm at 1126 Arsene LeBou. So I'm pretty much right across the street. My wife and I moved there just recently, about a month ago, and we were really, really excited with my 3-year-old son that we found this great piece of property, out in the country, beautiful neighbors. All the folks that live around us have been so sweet, so nice and welcoming. We just, we're in heaven, out there. And then we were absolutely devastated to hear that this was potentially going to happen, that everything was going to change. So this big investment that we had in the best home we've ever lived in, the property values are gonna plummet. I'm sure of it. We worked with a real estate agent recently who said, we looked at some house and she's like, this one's been on the market for years, and we're like, why? And it's because it's adjacent to a RV park, a mobile home park. And so we didn't do any of that for resale value and for safety reasons. We've got a 3-year-old son who loves to play out there. Our next door neighbors, they've got 5 kids, and they're always playing together. The folks across the street have another 4-year-old. And so we've got about 8 kids in the immediate vicinity, and they're all playing with each other, running across the street, having fun, living the dream, and we really want to keep it that way. So we're really afraid for safety reasons, for traffic, and we're nervous about the clientele that this park will have, the clients that are going to be living in there. We're concerned that they may not be the cream of the crop. They may not have a lot to do, so they are often, left to their own devices to try to figure out something to do. So they're wandering around, maybe recreational drinking, those kind of things. And I spoke to some people who live near one of these parks in Sulphur, and they listed all these problems that they've had, all the drunk driving accidents, speeding, people wandering into homes because they were unfamiliar with the local customs, that's not necessarily appropriate. Just some really scary things.
Wrap it up at the end.
All right. Anyway, we're very opposed to it because we would really like to keep our community the way it currently is and safe for the kids.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Satrika Broussard. I'm sorry, it's not Broussard, but she knows her. I can't pronounce it, but yeah.
Trika Williams Ben Sadat. My address is 1257 Arsene LeBou. First, I just want to make it clear, it was number 12 on the agenda that the dirt pit passed, and that's what most of us are here for. It did pass according to you guys.
That's not true.
But if it failed, we just want to make it for the record that it did fail.
It failed.
We just want to make it for the
I
record.
don't know what y'all heard, but no, it failed.
Okay. Once again,
Excuse me, sir. She has the floor, so no talking from the audience.
as far as number 21, my address is 1257 Arsene LeBou. I am one house over from where they're trying to propose this RV recreation park or whatever it may be, this 32 facility RV park. I'm probably one of the newest people to Arsene LeBou Road. Before I moved on Arsene LeBou Road, I did my research. I researched as far as who lived there, how many people lived there, who lived in the homes, to make sure that this was a safe haven for where I was bringing my family. I am a certified foster parent, and I can have up to 8 kids in my home at any given time. And what I wanted to create by moving out here to Arsene LeBou was a safe haven for these kids, and to allow this 32 RV park to come practically next door to my home, I'm concerned about that. I have a problem with that. This is a single-family neighborhood, and this is how we want to keep it. And I heard somebody quote the civil code earlier today, whereas a homeowner our landowner can do whatever he pleases with the land as long as he doesn't interrupt the peaceful enjoyment of his neighbors in pertinent part. And we want to keep it peaceful, and to allow this 32 RV park to come to our neighborhood, that's going to interrupt our peaceful living. And we have a problem with that. That's why we're all here today, and we vehemently oppose this RV park there, and we ask that you guys deny this.
All right, thank you.
This is why we're here today.
Thank you so much. Mr. Gale, would you like to come back up? None of that, none of that.
Briefly, a couple of things. Traffic, you're going to have less traffic as a result of the RV park than you had when the dirt pit was operating. Once the dirt pit is gone, you're going to lose all the traffic. You're back down to pedestrian traffic instead of the heavy industrial stuff that you're experiencing right now. Because of the design of the dirt pit and the way it's being dug out, it's going to be a unique design which is ideally situated for this because it's levied. There's an entire boundary levee all the way around it. And so you saw some of the initial, and it's in your the photographs in your packet. When you're driving down the road, you can't see to the interior of the property. The buffer zone there is a large levee, essentially with a moat around it. As far as child safety goes, there's one ingress and one egress. It comes in and out, and it's going to be at the very front of the property. And so it's limited control, and you don't have the problem that you might have in other areas where you've got people that are inside the park and wandering about. The design of the park is designed so that to take advantage of the unique features of it. You've got water features now. It's ideal for a fishing pond. You're required as part of your ordinance to have a recreational area, a boat storage area. You've got an ideal place for a pavilion on this. So this design, it's unique, and it's going to have a minimal impact on the community. And this unique piece of property, the highest and best use for this is going to be an RV park whenever the dirt's completely dug in. Any specific questions?
Who's going to be your potential customers?
Whoever wants to rent a spot. Whoever wants to come rent a spot. I mean, keep in mind, we approved how big of a unit up at the end of Lake Street. They were just up here, and it's the same thing. Now, that's a different specific design for that market, but you know, there are RV parks moving into this area. Traditionally, where you haven't seen it, you're seeing it now.
And so is it now going to be built similar to a bowl? I understand you keep talking about the moat around it to be a levee, which may looks nice, but are the RVs going to be within the bowl area? I'm trying to picture you saying the moat and the levee.
If you look into the yellow box that's on there, that area is the remaining high ground that has not been dug out for the pit. The property to the south will have been completely dug out. And so you've got the pond that's on the east side, you're going to have the pond that was on the south side, and then you've got the area that's on the left side that's going to be dug out. And so it's not necessarily going to be in a bowl per se, it's just a surviving high ground that has not been dug out as part of the pit.
So it's level ground, it's not raised around it? It's not a levee around it?
If you go to the image that shows the pickup truck in the driveway,
yes,
you'll see it's on an elevation. Right there.
Correct.
There's a levee.
And so is the RV park even with that levee, or you go back down?
You go back down a little bit.
Okay, that's my question. Okay. Any other questions for? Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir. I'll go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Mr. Chairman, before the vote is taken, just to remind everybody, the bylaws of this board require a majority vote to take action. So we have 8 of the members present. We have 8 members present, so we need a vote of 5 to take action.
Yes, okay. Ms. Cora, go ahead.
Mr. Little?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
No.
Ms. Felicia?
No.
Mr. Williams?
No.
Ms. Dickerson?
No.
Mr. Smith?
No.
Mr. Navarre?
No.
6-1.
1, 4, 6.
All right, item fails. Item fails. Do not do that. If you all could leave the room speedily, please. We appreciate it. We have a couple more items on our agenda.
We'd like to get out of here by 9 o'clock.
It's already 1:47.
Good comp time.
Let's take the conversations outside, please.
Comp time. We had overtime, need to bring us overtime lunch.
All right, item number 22, take appropriate action on case RZ 01-035-16, a request by MAD Contracting LLC to rezone from light commercial C1 and single-family residential R1. Please take the conversations outside, please. Sir, Mr. Stewart, can y'all take it outside? To rezone from light commercial C1 and single-family residential R1 to multifamily residential RM to allow multifamily residential development, 6 units, at 360 North Perkins Ferry Road in Ward 1. Entertaining motion for approval with stipulations, please.
So moved.
Mr. Williams moves. I have a second. Ms. Dixon seconds. Ms. Wallace.
This property is located in the Moss Bluff area and encompasses just under 1 acre. If approved, the development will consist of concrete parking and shared drives, brick facades, individual garbage disposal, and a 6-foot wooden privacy fence along the east property line. Each unit will be nearly 1,500 square feet in size with 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following stipulation, that the development adhere to the site plan on file.
Okay.
Oh, and I'm sorry. There is an email that was received this morning from an opponent that is on your tablet.
All right. Is there any additional information about the applicant? Okay. Any comments on this one? This 22? Yeah. Okay. All righty. We have. We have 5 against and 1 doesn't say. So, I was at 6 against.
Let's recommend 90 seconds per speaker.
90 seconds per speaker, so please get your information out quickly. James McCall, please. And if you all have the same type of information, you can combine your information.
James McCall. I live at 1309 Yvonne, which is at the end of that road in the cul-de-sac. And I oppose it because the subdivision is set up single family and for the reason it protects our property value. We do not want that changed to a multifamily for that purpose. It would just bring more traffic, and plus having ownership of the home keeps the value up. People keep their property up when it's the owner. So I oppose it for those reasons.
All right, thank you. Joe Morrissey.
Good evening. So stepping out of my comfort zone here, but feel I had to do this, to express my dissatisfaction on, excuse me? Oh, I'm sorry, 406 Marcus Drive, Joe Morrissey.
Remember, you have 90 seconds. 90 seconds.
90 seconds, all right. So don't have all the site details, but they say 360 North Perkins. So that's a real short frontage. So the parking and the driveways would probably have to come off Yvonne. That's on the corner of North Perkins Ferry and Yvonne. It's very, very busy. So you're talking 6 units. I'm assuming 3 duplexes. That's 12 cars. That is a very high traffic area. Just don't want to set the precedent here because there's other older homes in that area. And somebody else can come in and buy those older homes, and this will just be, one stepping stone to another set of duplexes and more, multifamily units. And if you look what happened down on Sistrunk Road, to be frank with you, that is an eyesore. More of the same. They used to be all just land, and then a couple duplexes came in, and they spread like wildfire, and it's a very, very run-down-looking part of town. Don't want that to come in every time I come to buy my house, to pass that up, not to mention trying to get out in the morning.
All right, thank you, so.
Okay?
Sandra Hanks?
I'm Sandra Hanks, and I live on 413 Marcus Drive. At the end of Yvonne, it turns into Marcus Drive, and we all own our homes, and we've got a quiet little neighborhood, and we'd like to keep it that way. And right there on the corner, to have 6 people in that little bitty area, I think will be, it's kind of crowded on that end to get in and out. And I just am opposed to that, too. So, pretty much what Joe said, yeah, I'm going for it, too.
All right, thank you. Melvin Maddox?
Melvin Maddox, 1325 Yvonne. I'm one of the first residents out there. Everything was single dwelling. As Joe said, they come in on Sistrunk. They built 5 double units. Now there's 40. You go by there, there's trash in the road, cars on jacks, tires laying there, trash cans turned over, screens tore off, property went to nothing. Whose problem is it? Ours. Who takes care of it? Nobody. They was going to put here, you had to commit about a year ago. A guy wanted to put 3 of them in front of my house. Y'all turned him down. But now this guy's going to come put 6 a block from my house. What's the difference in 3 and 6? I don't want them. Nobody in the neighborhood wants them. Where he's trying to put them is a older population. I would say the youngest person down there is probably 65. They do not need that in their neighborhood. When I leave Yvonne going to North Perkins in the morning, I go around by the junior high to get on the highway. You can't get on the highway. You can't get on it from Becky. You can't get on it from any other one because of the traffic.
All right, thank you so much. Paul Bunt?
Good evening. Paul Bunn. I live at 1322 Avon. I am actually a neighbor of all these people. We're all neighbors. And this is a very special neighborhood for all of us. And to turn in on Avon Street and see 6 dwellings that's going to turn into the same thing that's on Sistrunk right now, with furniture on the streets, trash, crap from people moving in and out constantly. We don't want it. So I'm here to voice my opinion about it. I'm against it.
Thank you so much. All righty. Grant,
Yes, my name's Grant Q. Living 1313 Yvonne Street. Has been living there for 18 years, and I love the neighborhood. It's people very nice, and also very seclusive neighborhood. And in that area, one problem with that area is drainage and flooding. 2006, my house was flooded because in that area, it's like a bowl. Baseball park, water drain to that area, and then where they go? They go to going to east, going to west. West is just past to that proposed development area. So any development in that area, we add on more flooding restriction, constraint. That's one. My main concern is in the future, the area will be even more risk of flooding. So not to mention about the neighborhood value, the house value dropping. That's the second concern. The third concern is the North Perkins Road is very highly trafficked area. you put 6 multi-family unit right there in the corner, right close to, next to the North Perkins Phase Road. It's just like add on another bottleneck to the area.
All right,
So,
thank you. That's your time. Thank you so much. All right. The applicant, would you like to come back up?
Yes, I'm Shane Miller, and I live on 1554 Noelle Street, which is literally one street away from Yvonne. So I'm a part of the neighborhood as well. I've been living there for 3 years. I bought this property about 6 or 8 months ago, and the house is around 50 or 60 years old. And so I guess just to go over some of the concerns, the main concern that I'm hearing is traffic and maybe the home values. You know, the parish stipulated, as you see on the map, that they didn't want anybody coming on North Perkins because it is heavily trafficked. So that's what I complied with, is that everybody come off of Yvonne. It's going to be, 3 units, or I mean, it's 3 units, but it's 6 actual, rentals,
Buildings.
whatever. But yeah, they'll all come off of there, and so they have the option to go this way or that way, to go through the back or whatever. And I guess just to address everybody's complaining about the one that looks really bad on Sistrunk, but I agree, that's a horrible looking piece of property over there on Sistrunk. But I'm going to own and maintain these, and so I build residential houses in Moss Bluff, Westlake, and in the area. And so this is going to be mine. I live literally a quarter of a mile from here. So if you look at the ones that are on North Perkins, there's 3, and I think everybody could agree, the 3 that you can see from eyesight, there's 3 already that you can see from the front porch of this house that are on North Perkins that are going to be the same. They're not eyesores. They're all brick, just like mine's going to be. The ones on Sistrunk are vinyl siding. Doesn't look like anybody's out there. Actually, they're missing half the vinyl siding. There's just ridiculous. No one mows it. It's not maintained. This thing is going to be maintained by me. I own this. I mean, I'm going to have almost, $1 million in this. So this is not something that is going to be an eyesore at all. If you look at any of my properties, and I dare anyone to go look at any property I've ever touched, it is nice, very nice. And so that's my proposal. And I mean, I can't go through I don't remember half of the other ones, but that's what I have.
Thank you. Any questions?
I do. Parking spots, how many parking spots per unit? Is
Well, that's
just
what it has.
2?
It's going to be 4 parking spots per.
Duplex.
There's 3 buildings, so there'll be
12.
2, 4, 6, 8, be 12. I guess, let's say, so you're going to have 4 cars per unit, and there's 3 units, so 12 cars.
So question for the staff, is this going to change the whole zoning for Yvonne? Because North Perkins, when you drive down there, there's apartments and duplexes all over the place.
Yeah.
But you don't want that to creep into their neighborhood. So is it going to change that zoning for the whole street, or just that? Because the corner is like commercial, right?
It's commercial.
It's
Yeah,
zone
But
commercial.
when you use Yvonne, you turn into single-family
That's correct.
residence.
Yeah, somebody could actually develop a commercial facility like that.
Right.
Commercial business.
It would face North Perkins, unless it got rezoned to
Well,
come
it
in off
doesn't
of.
necessarily have to.
Yeah, it did.
It could face it. There's no,
So they could come in on Yvonne for a commercial development right there?
yeah, it's zoned that way.
And the police jury, you guys in the police jury would just be rezoning his property. It wouldn't impact any other property along Yvonne.
But once you start, seems to snowball. That's, I think, a big concern.
Well, again, there are other developments that are similar to this particular land.
Oh, all down North Perkins, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, sir. Ready for a vote? All right. Roll call, Ms. Coral.
Mr. Navarre?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Felicia?
No.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
No.
Ms. Dickerson?
Yes.
Mr. Little?
No.
Mr. Chairman, you will need to vote if you,
I'm sorry, say again?
you will need to vote here.
Yes.
Item passes.
Item 22 passes. Item number 23, take appropriate action on case RZ 03-034-16, a request by JT Enterprises LLC to rezone from light commercial C1 to multifamily residential RM to allow multifamily residential development, 26 units at 5980 Tom Abear Road in Ward 3. Entertain a motion for approval stipulation.
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Dickerson, seconded by Ms. Brown. Ms. Wallace.
This property is located south of Lake Charles and encompasses 3 acres. If approved, the development will consist of concrete parking and drives, a central mailbox, and vinyl facades. Each of the units will be approximately 1,200 square feet in size, with 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the stipulation that the development adhere to the site plan on file.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here with any more information?
How you doing? I'm Jeremy Tomasi. I reside at 883 Helms Road in Lake Charles, Louisiana. We're proposing this duplex subdivision on 5980 Tom Abear Road, based on the approval of the board. The one exception, it will have brick. I did hear that where they're going to be vinyl. They're going to probably be 50% brick facade and hardy plank. The drawings were preliminary, just based on drawings we have, but we want them to really look nice. We expect to spend a good bit of money on the project and have really clean tenants. We plan to own them and rent them out. They're not going to be sold. So, any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Tomasi? All righty. Thank you. You may have a seat. I have a card from Mr. Kurt Carville.
Mr. Chair, how many opposition?
Just one. Come on.
Hi, my name is Kurt Corville, 6069 Tom Abear Road. I own a commercial horse boarding business only an eighth of a mile from the proposed location. My home is at that location, and I've been there for 20 years on 8 acres of land. There's a major drainage ditch that all the surrounding areas drain to from that particular area, including my property. This canal is between my land and the proposed project, only 1/8 of a mile away. This drainage goes to Black Bayou. Now, with all the construction over the years, the neighborhoods being built up that drain into this canal, it overflows for every major rain and completely floods my property as of late. One more inch of rain above what we have had on a yearly basis recently, my commercial location will flood. This proposed development, where the zoning signs are placed, is within 300 to 400 feet of this canal. This development will drain to this canal, causing further flooding problems. Since the police jury recommends that it be granted, based on the approval of the Gravity and Drainage Board, I'm telling you that the Drainage Board is either not aware or do not care about the flooding of this canal. How could the Gravity Board or the Drainage Board approve this project knowing that it will flood me and others along the same canal? And how could the police jury recommend this project knowing that it will flood me in the near future and a lot of people along this canal? Again, eventually, my horse boarding business will flood. If this area is not zoned for this purpose, then it shouldn't be changed. Not only should it not be changed, but if it is, it should definitely not be increased from 21 to 26 units. This is a rural area, quiet, and it should stay that way. This will lower my property value. It will attract undesirable tenants. If this does not, if it start off at a beautiful place, but what's it gonna look like in 10 to 20 years? I just ask that it go on record that I'm against the proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Corbel.
Thank you.
Any questions for him? All righty. Mr. Tomasi?
To address the drainage impact, we've worked with the parish and Eric Connor. We're going to do a drainage study on it. It's in an AE portion of X. The elevations are good as far as flooding. We don't see any problems with any additional flooding that's going to happen. All that'll be addressed and taken care of by an engineer to address the runoff. As far as quality of the area, I mean, we have a mobile home park across the street. I think it's been well maintained over the years. We also own additional mobile home park farther north, about a mile north. You know, they're well maintained. We're from the area. Our family's right there on Highway 14. I don't plan to build anything that's going to degrade the area or degrade the community. We're just looking to house some families, some multifamily housing here to give people more housing, not to degrade our area. So,
Thank you.
questions?
Any other questions, Mr. Tomasi? All righty. Roll call vote, please, Ms. Cora.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. LeVar?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Dickerson?
Yes.
Ms. Felicia?
Yes.
Mr. Little?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
7-4.
Okay, item 23 passes. Item number 24, take appropriate action on case VA 03-018-16, a request by JT Enterprises LLC for a variance to increase the maximum density requirements, allow 21 units, requesting 26 units at 5980 Tom Abar Road in Ward 3. Entertain a motion for approval with stipulations.
So moved.
Coach Williams move. I have a second.
Second.
Ms. Dickerson seconds. Ms. Wallace.
This is the same development considered in the previous request. Parish code allows 7 multifamily units per acre. To move forward with the proposed plan, the petitioner must receive a variance to allow nearly 9 units per acre. Because minimal impacts are expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the stipulation that the development adhere to the site plan on file.
Okay. You want to add anything else?
It will be a multi.
Go ahead and state your name again.
I'm Jeremy Tomasi. I live at 883 Helms Road. It will be a multi-phase project. This will take a couple years to fill up. We do have to initially build a very expensive sewer plant, water treatment plant, a lot of preliminary cost in the project, which we had to increase a couple of extra units to try to offset the cost of land cost and sewer plant, treatment plant, to make our economics work out.
Okay. Any question from Mr. Tomasi?
What I don't see is any kind of retention of water or whatnot on this property. If a study is done and they require that, is something that it would probably shorten this back up to less than 21 maybe.
Yes, sir, absolutely. We actually the architect drew that last unit in there, but that was actually, we give it a lot of discussion about a retention in the front. Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Any additional questions? All righty, thank you. A roll call vote, please.
Ms. Felicia?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Little?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. LeVar?
Yes.
Ms. Dickerson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
7-4.
All right, item number 24 passes. Item number 25 is the next item on this agenda, is to advise that the police jury took the following action on May 19, 2016, in reference to the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Board from the May 17, 2016 meeting. The applicant is Prairie Land on Lake Street. It was passed by Planning and Zoning, upheld by police jury. Western Real Estate on Bayou Den Road passed by Planning and Zoning, upheld by police jury. Van Winkle on Old Town Road passed by Planning and Zoning, upheld by police jury. Laurent, Oak Lake Drive, passed by Planning and Zoning, upheld by police jury. Chitty on Carlos Drive was withdrawn. Item number 26 is to advise that the next regular scheduled Planning and Zoning meeting will be held on July 18th, 2016 in the police jury meeting room, and it is to let you know that it is a Monday. It will be different from our normal Tuesday meeting on July 18th.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Before you adjourn, I wanted to clarify something that Mr. Navarro asked about the storage buildings. You asked if they had to be elevated. I re-looked up in the ordinance under a commercial, industrial type facility. Either have to elevate or you can flood-proof them. And the ordinance tells you how to flood-proof if you don't want to elevate those structures.
About them little windows and all that?
Well, it's not that. You have to actually flood-proof it to make it watertight.
Okay.
So just wanted to clarify that for you.
I'm glad you did that, because I was curious about it, you know? Because if they got to raise all that property for all them buildings, they got a lot of dirt to haul in.
That's correct, yes, sir.
We're gonna be up there with some more bar pits.
That's what I was about to say. We have some bar pits to look at.
Sorry.
Item number 27 is our adjournment. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I love to get dramatic.
Mr. Navarro adjourns, and I need a second by Mr. Art Little.
I like it here. I ain't going home. I'm so right here.
Thank y'all.
Just get me a bit.